Welcome to the Hurdle Podcast, very special edition. We got Bailey, we got Luke, got yourself right here, Logan, and we're doing the first official Hurdle Podcast mock draft. This one we are doing no trades, so we're just kind of going off the order right now. If there's any big trades that happen before the draft or at any point, we'll do situational ones like if Jacksonville doesn't take so-and-so at 1 or whatever, we'll do stuff like that. But we're just going basic in the order, who we think's going where. And my thing just went.
We're good.
We're good. So first pick, I think it's pretty obvious. We're going to take Evan Neal, tackle out of Alabama. I don't think that's too much of a stretch. What do you think, boys?
Yeah, so the thing is maybe if you're Jacksonville, you're thinking, oh, man, I really don't want to draft Luke Joeckel again. But at the same time, if you care about Trevor Lawrence, then you have to take the offensive tackle. Plus, Josh Allen is okay as a pass rusher. He's not terrible. And, I mean, they took a first-round pass rusher 2 years ago with Chase on. And I mean, so we've already tried that route. So you got to go and get this top level talent prospect.
He's just a
prospect. You know,
6'7", 360, I think.
6'7", 360.
Yeah.
Profit.
6'7", 360.
Yeah, I totally agree. The Jags have this really important guy by the name of Trevor Lawrence.
You know, they spent number 1 on him last year.
Yeah, they spent the number 1 on him last year. He's a pretty cool guy. And they got the number 1 again this year. So you might want to protect your super important guy by the name of Trevor Lawrence and draft this guy by the name of Evan Neal, who can protect your super important guy. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of money when Sia gets that off that rookie deal. It's even a lot right now.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, we will go Detroit Lions. I think it's pretty well obvious. I think we'll go Aiden Hutchinson, D-end out of Michigan. I just think it makes too much sense. They need D-line help. He's a Michigan kid. I can see the Thibodeau pick. I think Thibodeau's more of...
He's a higher upside.
Yeah, he's more of a project per se. I won't even call him a project. Hutchinson is like dominant right now, plug and play. Thibodeau could be the same for whoever he goes to, but I just think Hutchinson right now is just a better player. In the long run, I think Thibodeau will be better, but I just think Hutchinson fits what Detroit's trying to build down there, taking kneecaps.
Yeah, I think Hutchinson, you said that thing about the kneecaps. This dude plays every down. He's tough. Thibodeau, there have been some concerns about, is he trying really hard in some of these big games? Will he show up in these big games? What's his work ethic like? And Dan Campbell loves these guys that work hard and are gritty. And that's definitely Hutchinson more so than Thibodeau, at least from the public perspective. And like you said, Thibodeau has high upside. Hutchinson's more of a high floor guy who could have high upside too. But I think much higher floor, which is nice for the Lions. You really don't want to be missing with the number 2 pick right now when you got all this momentum from last year's draft and where you're going with your coach. And so I just think Hutchinson would be perfect. They definitely need that true elite pass rusher that they can count on to make the rest of the D-line better. And I just think that this pick makes too much sense and would just be a better pick for the situation the Lions are in than Thibodeau.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm more of a Thibodeau guy personally. I think, Hutchinson, like you said, being the Michigan guy and coming in, he was the best edge this year in college. I think we can all agree that Thibodeau has the higher upside, higher ceiling potential, whatever you want to call it. Because if he can really master, like if Thibodeau had Aiden Hutchinson's ability to pass rush and go move by move, Thibodeau would be hands down the number 1 pick. We wouldn't even be talking about it. And he still has that potential to do that. But like you said, with the work ethic kind of thing, that just drops people's draft stock when it comes down to it at the end of the day. So yeah, I think Hutchinson is a great fit. Speaking of Thibodeau, we're right into the Texans at 3.
Plug him.
Bam.
There you go.
Kayvon Thibodeau at 3. I think it's between him and Hamilton for the highest potential in this draft. I like both of them a ton. I think Kayvon Thibodeau has like Von Miller kind of upside. I kind of, that's kind of who I compare him to, just with that kind of speed, just his jump off the ball, his ability to get around these slower offensive tackles. He makes them look like they're standing still out there, and shed blocks, commit to high potential in the run game. But where he makes his money is in the pass rush, being an outside 3-4 backer. And that's just where I see him in the future. I think Houston's a good fit for that.
Yeah, the Texans sort of did something like this a few years back when they took Clowney, and he was okay, but I think that Thibodeau has a higher upside there just because it's tough to say, right? Clowney's still pretty decent. He just doesn't see, I have the same
game in different ways.
Yeah.
I sort of have some concerns about both of them, how they have just not been super consistent. Like, they show up one day and they are just so much better than everyone else, and they wreck the game. And some days they show up like against Utah twice, and you just like, oh, what happened to Kayvon? But man, if they get like, sometimes all it takes is like the right strength and conditioning coach just to light this fire under this dude. Or maybe it's just seeing that contract, that third overall rookie contract, is all he needs for motivation. But if this dude gets that kind of fire and plays the way that he can play consistently, he's going to be the best player in this draft, and he'll be a Hall of Famer. And then no matter what happens with the rest of the Texans dumpster fire of an organization right now, they can say that they hit on this pick, and they will always have a jersey for fans to buy and a player for fans to come watch, which is what you're gunning for, right up there with winning, because it's all about, marketing and money and all that stuff too.
I mean, yeah, I think you just look at this pick and it's kind of like, I'm not comparing him to him, but like Luke said, development wise, they developed JJ Watt into a freak down there in Houston. So if they can even get a little bit of that out of Kayvon Thibodeau, I think this is a home run pick for Houston. Like, Houston has a lot more holes to fill. I think we can all agree. But when you have number 3, you have to take one of the best players in the class. I personally think probably the second best player in the class. And I think Thibodeau is just a perfect fit down there in Houston right now.
Who's your number 1?
Who's my number 1? I think Hamilton is speaking of him, going to 4 to the Jets. I think Hamilton's the pure best athlete in this class. I think he's the best player in the class. I think he checks off a lot of boxes. It's tough for me to go, let's take a corner at 4. A safety at 4. But at the same time, you saw what they did with Jamal Adams. And Kyle Hamilton is not blitz boy. He can actually cover. He can read the run very well. I think, I know as you Seahawks fans look away after trading all those picks for him.
Hey.
Yeah, wasn't 10 going to be your pick? Oh, wait. Jets.
Hey, we aren't good at drafting first rounders.
Yeah, you trade him anyway. So at that point, it's whatever. I just think Kyle Hamilton's the all-around best player in this class. He can change the defense. And the Jets defense is young and coming around. So I think he just fits that mold of being the safety of the future back there. Because they still have Marcus May. They have Austin Davis out of Cal from a few years ago. But this guy is just one of those guys that I sound like Chris Collinsworth right now, but you got a guy here that just, I don't know how you don't pick him. Like, honestly, after Neal, Detroit could do it, but I don't think they will. But it's just one of those scenarios where when you have one of the best talented players in the class fall to you at 4, I don't know how you don't take it.
This pick feels like the sort of pick like we've seen with like Myles Garrett or Joe Burrow or Trevor Lawrence. It's not the first overall pick, but it just feels like something that if this is there at number 4 and they don't do it, it would just be such a bad pick, because obviously they don't have Adams anymore. And this dude has some skills sort of like Adams in the way that he can be used in so many ways. Except he's way better in coverage, and he's so much faster, and anytime your ideal role on like mock draft networks and all kinds of stuff like that is defensive weapon, it's like, it just goes to show that this dude does everything. I mean, he's not a run-stopping defensive tackle, but outside of that, he could probably play any position defensively in this draft. And defensively among the best players in this draft and among a lot of the best players in the NFL. And that's just how good this guy is. So I think it's a no-brainer, honestly, if it falls here to the Jets. They did some nice things offensively in the draft last year that they're still trying to figure out. But with May possibly leaving, maybe they get him back. But I mean, this dude would just be so awesome for this defense to work with. And maybe if they're a little bit more competent with him next year on defense, they'll be decent. But I think this is a no-brainer for them.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, the only position I've really seen the Jets really develop in the past, decade is safety. Talking Jamal Adams and maybe a little corner if you want to go as far back as Revis. But Kyle Hamilton, I think, is hands down the best player in the draft. I think he has the highest upside in the draft. Like, he's like, 6'3", 6'4", hits like a linebacker and covers like a corner at the safety position. He reminds me a lot of Derwin James in the way he plays.
Oh, absolutely.
Just being able to help and run support. I honestly think his coverage potential is higher than Derwin James. And I love Derwin James. I think he's probably the best safety in the league. And that's the praise we're giving him as coming into this draft, is that kind of potential. Safety, I know people find it the most least valuable position, like on the field, basically. If you have a great safety that can rotate all across your defense, he is the most valuable asset you have on your defense. So, I just think that's his potential. I think he's going to be a stud.
I mean, yeah, look at Cincy, man. Like, Jesse Bates is that heart of that defense, and he's got them in an AFC championship game outside the offense, but defensively, he's their bright spot. So when you can get a guy like that, I mean, I know the cop-outs, like a Harrison Smith comparison, because they both went to Notre Dame. I think Kyle Hamilton's a better coverage safety than Harrison Smith was coming out, which, I mean,
says a lot.
Yeah, it says a lot. So I know it's kind of a cop-out just to do a Notre Dame comp with him, but I think it's valid.
And you look at some of the great safeties or some of the great teams that won Super Bowls in the past. The Niners won it with Lott at safety. The Broncos went back-to-back with Steve Atwater. Like, these are comps. Like, Steve Atwater was 6'3", 220. That's what Kyle Hamilton is, basically.
Very familiar.
Yeah. Sounds familiar,
6'4",
doesn't it?
220.
Yeah, 6'4", 220.
Very familiar.
Like, Steve Atwater was a menace. Brian Dawkins was a menace. Like, these guys.
John Lynch.
Yeah, John Lynch. Exactly. So I think that's kind of his comp. He has Hall of Fame talent, in my opinion, like you guys were saying with Thibodeau, which I think he does too. I think Hall of Fame talent is very well in the works for both these guys.
Yeah, for sure. All right, number 5, Giants. I think if we're being honest, they just need help on the O-line. So
everywhere.
Let's take the best tackle, I think, in the class. Let's go Ekwu
Besides Neal.
Outside of Neal. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
From North Carolina State. I just think he fits what the Giants are trying to do. I don't know what the experiment with Andrew Thomas is going to be. If you keep him at left or move him to right, I don't know. But I just know Nate Solder is hot trash, and they need help on the O-line. So Ekwu is just the perfect fit for this Giants offense, who now is committed to running this offense out of Daniel Jones. So you have to keep protection on him, and he's one of the best pass blockers in recent draft classes, I think, outside maybe like a Tristan Wirfs. But I think he's so good. He's not looked at highly because he's from NC State, but I just think he could be a stud. I'm not saying he's better than Neal, but it's like 1A and 1B. I think you take the sheer size of Neal because he's that good. He's like almost a Becton, but Ekwu is probably technically, like mechanically or technique wise, just as good as Evan Neal.
So Ekwonu, man, obviously, I mean, he was left tackle at NC State, like a lot of these top level of the draft tackles. So they could maybe move Andrew Thomas over to right tackle. Doesn't really matter what happens there, but because Thomas, I just don't see the potential in him really anymore. I didn't see it when they took him at the 4th pick, when they should have taken Wirfs or Becton
Wills.
or Wills. They could have taken any one of those three, but they didn't, in typical Giants fashion. And so now they're hunting down a tackle, and Akwanu, obviously with Neal gone, is definitely the next best tackle. Probably the third best lineman in this class. 6'4", 320. He's got great size. A lot of zone running and a lot of passing. Obviously at NC State, because in the ACC throw a lot. He's pretty athletic. He moves pretty well here. I'm reading a lot of this stuff, but I've seen a lot of this in some tape that I've watched from. I know the NC State offense is more of a zone rushing scheme. And I think that could fit well with the Giants because you got Saquon Barkley in there, and that is the sort of scheme that the Giants can run there. And then you got Daniel Jones, who can roll out a lot too. So you want some athletic linemen that can move around and help those guys. I mean, you just got to start building up something of an offensive line. I mean, no matter what sort of scheme and fit and blah, 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 whatever kind of stuff, you just need linemen that are talented at moving the guys in front of them, because Daniel Jones won't have any chance at success, whether he's good or not, if he is getting sacked immediately. And he really won't if they can't run the ball to help him out. And Saquon Barkley is a super talented guy, but he stands no chance because he gets hit as soon as he touches the ball. So they just need to start building an offensive line wherever they can. Akwanu's the third most talented lineman, but you're not taking a center with the 5th pick. So he's definitely the pick here for me.
I completely agree. This dude, the power and absolute ferocity that this kid plays with is something to behold. His ability, like you guys were talking about, his ability in the pass game, what I see is insane drive, jump off the ball, and just sheer willpower to dominate, especially once he gets to the second level. Once he hits the second level, it's IHOP. Pancakes are going everywhere. It is insane. It's like Orlando Pace invented, if you guys know who Orlando Pace is, old left tackle for The Greatest Show on Turf in the 90s and late 90s, early 2000s. And he invented the stat pancakes coming out of Ohio State. His ability in the run game kind of reminds me of that, not to the level of Orlando Pace, because like he originated the stat, but just the sheer ferocity that he plays with, like we said, and his ability in the pass game. He's athletic. He can guard and he can protect the guys like we were talking about, the Thibodeaus of the world, who win based on sheer athleticism and speed. He can block those guys. So once he gets more fundamentally sound, I think you have an all-pro tackle here in a combo.
Yeah, for sure. So let's move to 6. Carolina, a lot of holes to fix, but I mean, they don't really have a quarterback, but you got to keep him clean. You got to keep McCaffrey clean. Let's go Charles Cross, tackle in Mississippi State. I mean, we talked about Kwame. I think Charles Cross is also right there. This tackle class is really this O-line class. It's one of the better ones we've seen for potential, I think. I think Cross is really good. I think he just fits what Carolina is trying to do because, you know, he's been there with Mike Leach now at Mississippi State. They've been more of an air raid offense, but, I mean, Carolina could be that because I just see McCaffrey more as a receiving back right now because he just can't stay healthy. So it is what it is. But I just think you got to shore up the other side opposite of Moton. Moton's a right tackle. Cross is obviously a left tackle. You get your franchise left tackle and secure your offensive edges for the future.
Yeah, you said it. He's a left tackle. It's not quite as big, 6'5". He's only 305. Still decent size. Obviously, like you said, air raid offense. His best traits are in the passing game. He's a quick step guy, so he's good at preventing edge rushes. So he uses his quick first step which is his best trait. Which I noticed the most in his tape is that when edge rushers are flying around, this dude is able to get out there with that shuffle that tackles use quickly and doesn't allow that. Now, they don't run a lot, which might factor into him not being as great of a run blocker. He's also just not quite as big, but he definitely tries. He's not as as technical, and he's not as perfect in his run blocking. But like you said as well, McCaffrey's more of a pass catcher anyways. And so if he can get out there and use his athleticism on screen passes and when they're setting up passes to McCaffrey or when they're just dropping back to throw in general, which I think fits their system better, he's nice. And on the other side of Moton, then you kind of lock up those two sides of the line. You can build inwards with this offensive line. I think works nicely for the Panthers. So I think this is a good pick. If they're not going to go with a guard like Kenyon Green, then I think that Cross is a nice pick here.
Yeah, and I think Carolina has a lot of ways they can go with this pick. I think they could go edge, pair alongside Derek Brown and Brian Burns, and really reassure that D line. They could, if they really wanted to reach for a linebacker, they're huge on like Nakobe Dean or something. They could do that because Shaq Thompson's getting up there in age. Yeah, I agree with you guys. You got to get a no tackle here, and if Okongwu doesn't go at 5, he's your pick, hands down. I think. And like you said earlier, like Okongwu fits what the Giants are trying to do, which is get Saquon Barkley involved. They don't want to trade Saquon Barkley. Trust me. That number 2 pick wants to be justified. And I think it will be if they take Okongwu, which will definitely help that run game. And I think same thing is said to be here for Charles Cross. Charles, these two are both scheme fits for what they are trying to do. Charles Cross is much more of a pass protector, I think, than Okongwu, I think, of more of a power guy. Cross is kind of the opposite, like you guys said, in the air raid, Mike Leach, Mississippi State offense, where you're throwing 55 times a night. You got to know how to pass block. He knows how to do that at a fairly high level. And he's gonna learn from guys like Moton, who have become all pro tackles already, or Pro Bowl tackles at the least. And yeah, you get your tackles solidified, and maybe that'll attract a quarterback like a Rodgers, like a Watson, because you know you're willing to build that offensive line for him, and you have a great pass catching back in McCaffrey. You got weapons and Moore and Anderson, and Tommy Tremble. So yeah, I think Charles Cross is absolutely the pick here to really round out what Carolina's trying to do there under Matt Rule.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we've got 3 of the first 6 picks being linemen. Let's just make it 4 out of 7. Giants, I think, are going to go back-to-back linemen. They should, and I think it's Kenyon Green, tackle out of A&M. He's, I think, the best tackle in the class. And when you look guard, my bad. But it's kind of like one of those things where, you know, the rich get richer. You get arguably the best tackle for your team, and you get the best guard in the class for a team that is building around Daniel Jones's game and not Saquon Barkley's. But all jokes aside there, I see Kenyon Green is a mauler. He gets to the second level. He knows how to create holes for a Saquon Barkley, but he's also great pass technique wise. He has some of the best footwork from a guard I've seen in a long time, maybe since Zach Martin. And that's saying something. He's got the footwork for it though. So if the Giants could get a Zach Martin for their team at 7, I think if you're a Giants fan, you go 5 and 7 and you get tackle and guard. I think if you're a Giants fan, or at least a realistic Giants fan, you are more than happy with that because that's what you need.
It's just funny listening to Cowboys fans talk about Cowboys players. But Zach Martin is really good. I'll give you that. All right. Anyways, talking about Kenyon Green. Kenyon Green is sort of like the opposite of Charles Cross. He's more of a run guy. I've seen some reports on him calling him a road grader, which is always a good.
You love hearing that.
Guy for a running game. Bailey was talking about, you want to justify that second pick, Saquon Barkley, and that's really nice. And then all of a sudden, maybe you moved Andrew Thomas to right tackle and maybe figure something out there. And then you put Akwanu at left tackle, and then you throw in Kenyon Green. I could also see them taking Linderbaum with this pick because their center's not great either, and he's probably the best overall lineman, maybe second best overall lineman. but he's just the center, so you don't want to take him as high. But Green would be a great pick too. We've obviously labeled him as the best guard in this class. He's got tackle flexibility too, so if you find something that works at guard and you not like in your tackle situation outside of Aquanu, you can always move him to right tackle. And then you got 2 solidified tackles. So any way they go with this, he's got flexibility. He's great in the run game. He's definitely competent, if not proficient in the passing game as well. And he's only a junior coming out of college, so he's still young, 6'4", 325. He's got the size and he's got the athleticism. So if they can mold these players correctly, unlike they did with Andrew Thomas, then they could really be building something nice up front here and finally, maybe get one of those nice wide receivers that they picked up last year, touchdown, and play a level of offense that doesn't make me want to stop watching football forever.
Fair.
I mean, man, I couldn't have said that any better. Yeah, I think, like we said, scheme fits with the first 2. I think Green's the same thing here. Go out and get yourself a run blocker that you can pair either alongside a Conwu or either on the other side with Andrew Thomas, because that's what Andrew Thomas really excels in, if anything, is being able to run block. If these guys go out here and they can't run the ball, they're screwed. They might go -1 in 18. Like, they're going to be so bad if they can't run the ball. Because they're investing in it. They're investing if it goes this way, they're going 2 top 7 picks to be able to move the ball through Saquon Barkley, which is what they have to do. But A, Saquon has to stay healthy, and B, they actually have to develop these guys into people who can run block D linemen that are in the NFL. So, yeah, I do like Kenyon Greeno as a prospect if we're getting down to how he is as a player. I agree with you. Best guard in the class. Don't really think it's that close. They can move him around if they have to. I feel like you said, his footwork gives him the ability to be a little more flexible. And with the footwork, you can start pulling him in those run formations that you really want to run the counters, run the pitches, because he can go out there and get those guys. He's fast enough to do that. So I also like Kenyon Green here, just because if the Giants are going to go all in on a certain mold, this is what they have to do right here. And not only does it help Saquon Barkley, it's going to help Daniel Jones because they can get a run game actually going.
Yeah, for sure. I hate saying that as a Cowboys fan, but that would be a scary line. At 8, Atlanta's got a lot of holes. We're not going to sugarcoat it. Quarterback could be one. This is not where our first quarterback is going, though. We got Andrew Booth Jr., corner out of Clemson, falling to the Falcons. I think this was purely, we looked at it and we go, all right, they need a corner. Of the corners available, which one do we think matches well? And they've got AJ Terrell from Clemson, who was a stud this year. Why not put a guy not exactly like AJ Terrell, but very similar in his play style across from him and lock down these receivers in a very competitive NFC South? It just makes a lot of sense. Their defense was atrocious. The offense was okay, mainly because of Pitts. But yeah, and Cordero Patterson. And I mean, one thing we didn't talk about, which is interesting, is if Calvin Ridley does in fact want out because he's requested trades, this could be a spot for the first receiver. I just don't see him taking a receiver. I see him taking Andrew Booth Jr. for sure.
Yeah, I've seen some mocks that say, receiver, but I just think that you're better off building around a defense. You get a guy that's a bright spot on your team like AJ Terrell. And then, your other bright spot on defense would be Grady Jarrett. And then outside of that, they got a lot of needs. So if you're taking your first corner here, a lot of people probably be surprised that you take Andrew Booth. Why not Derek Stingley? He's so great. Well, he's had some injury issues, some questions of work ethic, and hasn't been as good the last couple of years with those. And then why not Ahmad Gardner? He's more of a zone guy. Booth is much more of a man guy. Clemson obviously had a super great defense, lockdown type defense. They were locking down some offenses in that ACC that were running and gunning all over people all year long. Booth is a nice player. You mentioned the Clemson connection. We talked about that a lot. And those connections can end up being big. And we talked about this too, the Burrow Chase connection, LSU. Yeah, they were quarterback and wide receiver, so it's a little bit different. But that connection of just knowing each other can help a lot. Some teams have tried that, like Arizona drafting all the Washington DBs. So I just think he's a nice pick here. I still need to watch more tape on him. I've seen some, not super familiar with the entirety of his game. But from what I've read on him and what I've seen, he tackles willingly. He can defend the run. He's great in man coverage. He is very athletic. And then he's got that connection with Terrell, and he's not going to be pressed in there to be the number one corner on a corner needy team. So it's not like there's going to be as much pressure on him, and he'll get to take on the number 2 wide receiver. So they can experiment and develop him that way and not just throw him into the fire.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Clemson is a huge part of it. I mean, if you're successful with something, why not dip your hand right back into the thing that got you successful at that position? I think Andrew Booth Jr. is just another testament to that. Like you guys said with Bro Chase, the college connection is a trend that's really starting to develop in the NFL due to Burrow and Chase. But I think it's really going to start to evolve here later in drafts, starting with this one. Like you said, they have a similar play style. Terrell is straight up lockdown and press man. Dude is absolutely ridiculous this year, lining up against guys like Mike Evans, like Chris Godwin in Tampa. Sometimes even he guarded Kamara a couple times because that's like the really big thing that they had to go in against New Orleans. They don't have really any. Yeah, and then you got DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson in Carolina, which DJ Moore is a superstar in the making. So I think you just have that, and communication is something that is heavily underrated defensively, especially among secondary players. And when you have someone that knows like what you're going to do before you even do it on the opposite side of the field, if you can get that on both sides and have 2 guys just be straight up locked down in man coverage, it makes your life so much easier as a pass rusher or a guy like Deion Jones who excels in pass coverage himself. So I think they really got to commit to guarding the pass, which is what the modern NFL is. Every team has to have a strong suit, and I think Atlanta needs to go in the direction building around their superstar and AJ Terrell.
Absolutely. That's scary young secondary down in Atlanta if it happens to be such. All right, we got our first quarterback. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. No.
Here?
Yes, indeed. At 9, kind of a reach. I personally think he's the best quarterback in the class. I know Bailey will disagree with me on that, but I think Kenny Pickett is built for what this Broncos offense wants/needs. He has a strong arm like a Drew Lock, but he doesn't turn it over, and he can scramble. Does he have small hands? Absolutely. That's why he wears 2 gloves. He can be your Teddy 2 gloves. Pickett 2 gloves. I don't care what you want to say. I just think you got new front office personnel in Denver. They want their guy. I think they're just going to make a reach for Kenny Pickett. I could see the Corral pick, but I really just think Kenny Pickett fits what Denver's trying to do.
Yeah, this dude definitely just said Pickett 2 gloves, but whatever. Hopefully he's just not throwing picks to the defense. Okay. Anyway, I can see what you're saying there. So you're talking about he fits with the Broncos. So you basically said he's a tall white guy, but nonetheless, 6'2", 225. So he does sort of fit that mold, but he's got nice athleticism. Obviously had the fake slide at sort of thing. So he's creative. He's got great accuracy. And if there's one thing the Broncos quarterbacks didn't have, especially after Teddy Bridgewater went down and they threw Drew Lock in there, it was accuracy. So they weren't getting their wide receivers the ball, which is the best part about their offense outside of their nice running back duo and their nice tight end duo. Their O-line has some issues, but Pickett, I think, is good. He's nice and calm in the pocket. He can scramble when he needs to and evade pressure when he needs to. He's got the accuracy. We'll see about the arm strength, but the wide receivers they have aren't total deep threats. A lot of them are more a route runner guy like Jerry Jeudy, physical guy like Tim Patrick, Courtland Sutton. So I think you just get the ball up to them. You build behind a strong running game. and you throw a quarterback like this into a system that has a lot of weapons around him and fits him nicely, I think it could work out. I can see where Bailey's coming from with the Matt Corral pick. He's another guy that's got a really nice arm, super athletic, and a great scrambler. But I also like Pickett a little bit more, just from what I've seen from him compared to Corral. And I mean, we'll have to see if there's any lingering issues from that injury Corral had. But I mean, we'll see about that. But I like Pickett too here. It's kind of you could go either way, but I think the quarterback is the move here. And also another thing we talked about before we recorded this, was Bailey could say more about it too if he wants, but if you are going to go for a guy like a Rodgers and then maybe try to trail it with a Devontae Adams, then either trading this pick or trading the quarterback that you take with this pick in communication with the Packers is going to be big. And so then you take the quarterback here, and then you can use that to trade that young potential star quarterback in the future. And that deal with for Aaron Rodgers makes it more sensible.
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree with you guys here. I think in terms of being an NFL prospect, I like Kenny Pickett a little bit more just because he fits the modern NFL system a little bit more. Like you guys said, the creativity, I think it's something that leaps off the page when it comes to Kenny Pickett, and the fake slide, of course, comes to mind. There's a couple of things you can't really teach, and one of them is accuracy. Normally, if you're an inaccurate quarterback, you're an inaccurate quarterback for a pretty long time, unless you switch schemes or something like that. Like maybe Winston does good in whatever scheme the Saints are going to run now. But I like Pickett's accuracy a little bit more. I think Corral has more arm talent. I think Corral might be the little bit of a higher upside guy. Just in my personal opinion, I don't know if y'all disagree with that, but like you said, I just like Pickett a little bit more as a prospect right now. Currently, I think he's a little bit more pro ready than Corral too. I worry a little bit with Corral's decision making comparatively to Pickett. I think Pickett's IQ is a little bit higher as of right now. I think he fits Denver's scheme. He kind of reminds me of Zach Wilson, honestly, like up at BYU. He can play make, but I think the arm talent, not the arm talent, but the accuracy is a little bit better. Zach Wilson has more arm talent, but I think the accuracy is a little bit better with Pickett. They kind of play the same way. They're able to scramble, get out of the pocket, run. They're both supremely athletic. And his ability to make throws on the run, which is something that's so valuable in today's NFL. He can do that at a very high rate. So yeah, I agree with you guys with Pickett at 9. And like you were saying, Luke, if you're going to get Rodgers and Adams potentially, trade the pick now, according with other picks, so Green Bay can take whoever the hell they want, or take a quarterback, because a quarterback is going to not only be the best bet for your team, but is also going to be the best bet when you trade, if you want to trade for Aaron Rodgers, because so far we're 2 years in and Jordan Love looks like he's gotten worse. I mean, good Lord. That project has kind of fallen flat on its face. I know we're only 2 years in. There's still all the potential. It took Rodgers 2 years before he ever even touched the field as a starter, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was 1. But yeah, I just think Pickett's the guy here, not only for Denver, but also if you try to trade for Rodgers in Green Bay, just because Green Bay is going to be looking for a young QB plus picks, plus maybe even something else when it comes down to trading for Aaron Rodgers.
For sure. All right. We gave the Jets, in our opinion, the best player in the class in Kyle Hamilton. Let's just help the whole secondary out. Let's get Revis out on 2.0. Let's get Derek Stingley to the New York Jets. It's easy to say the comparison could be Darrelle Revis. It could be easy to go LSU. Oh, Patrick Peterson. It's whatever. He's his own guy. The injury concerns, didn't play as great this year. But, I mean, considering last year he was going to be a top 5 pick anyway, I don't see how he falls out of the top 10. And I think the Jets need all the secondary help they can get. And he just fits their mold, what they're trying to do. If I'm like Robert Saleh is a defensive minded coach, Their front seven's okay. Their back end is just not that good. And when you go out and get two of the best young coverage guys and run support in Kyle Hamilton, that really just elevates your defense on the back end.
Yeah. Stingley has been mocked to the Jets a lot at the 4th pick. If he falls to the 10th pick, I think that's where you pull the trigger as the Jets if you don't trade this pick, because then it's like, oh, wow, we got even luckier. If Stingley doesn't go as the first corner, which I don't think he's the best corner, but I think he could maybe go as the best as top corner. He probably is kind of like a Thibodeau compared to a Hutchinson, where it's like, oh, maybe Ahmad, Gardner, and Andrew Booth are better at this moment than him because of, maybe there's some concerns about his drive or injuries or not showing up in this game here. But he's probably got this insane upside because this dude, if you only looked at 2019, then, this dude at one point for like the last 2 years was like the most can't miss cornerback prospect, such an insanely high level player. His freshman year, true freshman season, he had 38 total tackles, a fumble recovery, 6 picks, and 15 passes defensed. I wasn't able to find the exact advanced stats of yards and touchdowns and all that, but this dude was like a Revis Island at LSU his true freshman year, which just shows you the immense talent and potential this guy has. If he can figure out the injuries and they do what they've done best in the past, which is develop the DBs, and then you put him in there with Kyle Hamilton, and you got 2 dudes that have top-notch DB Hall of Fame level potential in the secondary. If you hit on those 2, then you're going to have a Revis Island of a secondary. Like, it's going to be insane if these 2 dudes end up working out to the potential that they have. Both ended their careers with the injuries, so you worry. But, Stingley I have falling just because these other guys have played so good recently and they've stayed healthier and have played more in these bigger games because LSU kind of started to not be as good here. But Stingley still has so much potential that if it gets tapped into, is going to earn some dudes some raises and some promotions.
Yeah. I'm with you on the Stingley Hall of Fame potential. You talked about his true freshman year. I think he won College Corner of the Year that year as a true freshman. And people have been talking about his, I guess you could call it disappointing play the last year and a half or so. But I was just scrolling through. I don't see any LSU guy here in the top 9 rest of in any of these defensive positions. That LSU team, his true freshman year, was loaded not only offensively, but defensively. And they had an abundance of picks in that draft. Everyone left. And he was the lone guy that had to stay because of his age and can go into the draft because he wasn't a junior yet. So his play, I think, suffered a little bit because he had to adjust. And he didn't adjust super well. I think that's one thing that you could say about his last years. He was still taking on number 1 receivers, but if you have no safety help over the top, sometimes it kind of sucks because you're just stuck there. And still has the potential to guard every team's best receiver one-on-one, which is if you're taking him with a top 10 pick, that's what you expect him to do. But I don't think people give enough credit to his level of play. People call it disappointing compared to his true freshman year, but I don't think people give him high enough credit because everyone left. Like, he had to go through an entirely new set of players that he was playing with. And it's just a totally different situation than what the cards he was dealt with in his first year. The potential is through the roof. He can play lockdown man. He can play high level zone. He can ball hawk. He can help and run support a little bit. I think he's got the highest potential maybe in this draft next to Kyle Hamilton. So if the Jets land both, I wouldn't be surprised if the Falcons take him. Just because of that potential, we think the college chemistry is going to be a thing in the NFL now. But if the Falcons don't give a dang about that, you take Derek Stingley because he has the highest potential, hands down. And I'm super high on him. If he went to the draft his freshman year, he probably would have been the number 1 pick in that draft. if we're being honest, he probably would have been right there with Burrow. And just because that's how good he was his freshman year, and people expect you to keep that when everyone else is gone, that just didn't happen. And his draft stock's going to pay the price just a little bit, but the talent is so extreme there that it's almost impossible to see him, like you said, Logan, falling out of the top 10.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys that talent-wise, it's
almost generational.
Yeah, it's not like they're taking best player available, because you could argue there's other positions that just have better talent in this draft at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the secondary, their defensive-minded head coach, I feel like it's just got to be him. So let's go to the team that doesn't have a name or logo yet. We'll know that on the 2nd of February. They clearly don't have a quarterback. I love me some Taylor Heineke, but that didn't win them games. I also loved Fitzmagic. He didn't play. So the one inconsistency on this team was either staying healthy and quarterback play. And they have weapons all over the field. They have a McLaurin. They got Curtis Samuel. Gibson out of the backfield's dangerous. Logan Thomas is figuring it out at tight end. Looked really good when healthy. So it seems clearly it's a quarterback. Give him a Corral. Bailey's guy here. I'll let Bailey hype him up, but I like Matt Corral. I think he is your guy. Don't.
He is, but I just said Pickett's a better prospect.
But your guy's Corral.
My guy's
Did
Corral,
I say
yeah.
no? I didn't say it. So there you go. I think Corral fits what Washington's trying to do. They need a quarterback, and you look at the other quarterbacks. I don't see him taking Sam Howell at 11. I don't see him taking Carson Strong at 11. I don't see him taking Willis at 11. I don't see him taking Ritter at 11. So Matt Corral's the only one that makes sense. So I just think it's a match made in heaven for Ron Rivera and the football team.
I feel like Matt Corral's kind of like a Taylor Heineke if Taylor Heineke was good. They're sort of like the same size-ish. They sort of kind of play the same way, except when Corral runs around and makes plays with his feet and kind of chucks the ball up there to try and make the big hero play, he makes it more than half the time. Heineke usually doesn't, and it usually ends in a fireball crashing into the Giants organization. And
there you go.
And basically, I mean, Corral would be a really nice pick. This dude has impeccable upside. He stays healthy, and if you can refine his decision making, I think Ron Rivera would be a really nice coach to go with Matt Corral, because he's so perfect minded for a lot of players that just kind of need some refinement. I mean, he was able to make an offense run with Alex Smith and with Taylor Heineke to a point. So if he gets a guy with such raw natural talent athletically and with his arm like Matt Corral, I feel like he could really do big things. And him with a nice, reliable target in Logan Thomas and a nice, powerful running back, but also a really nice running back that you can split out in Antonio Gibson, and then just a true superstar potential, but still very, very good receiver in Terry McLaurin. Would be a really nice 1-2 punch there down the field as well. And then you got a nice speed guy out there in a guy that, oh my goodness, I can't even remember the name of. Curtis Samuel. There it is. He can kind of be a gadget guy. And then you put Corral in there and you can start building this offense up. I've seen a lot of people mock Malik Willis here. Don't know why. I just have never really been super high on him. Plays against lower competition, and when he plays in there was a game this year where actually Corral and Ole Miss played Liberty, and it was very hyped up, and Willis sucked, and they got smoked, and it was just kind of what happened in a lot of big games this year when Willis played. Willis has a lot of talent with his legs. He's probably more agile and faster overall, and he's throwing some really sweet passes in his tape. But if you don't watch the highlight tape, which makes Malik Willis look like the next Holmes, if you watch some of the regular tape of him, like game tape, you went through a whole game and watched this tape, you would see why people like me are sort of refraining from wanting to go all in with the 11th pick. And I think Corral's a lot safer, but also still has super awesome upside and would be a really nice pick here for Washington if they don't want to do anything else. And there's no lineman to take really other than center. I just think Corral is the right pick here for Washington. So Bailey, why don't you tell us why we're calling him your guy?
I've been calling him my guy all through this season. He shows some things to me that I think are pretty high level. He plays way bigger than his size, I think. And we talk about generational quarterbacks coming up right now. He kind of gives me Josh Allen kind of vibes, just at 6'1", 200, not 6'6", 260, which is a big difference. But I think their play styles are fairly similar. You can't really run the QB power with Corral just because he's not 6'6", 260. But the arm talent, I think, is there. The IQ needs to be worked on a little bit. The decision making needs to be worked on a little bit. We saw that in the Baylor game very early on before he got hurt. But in big games, he played well, excluding Baylor where he got hurt. We normally think of the Big 12 as a offensively heavy conference. I know he's in the SEC, but he played teams like Baylor, teams. I believe they played Oklahoma State this year, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken there, actually, now that I think about it. But he played SEC level defenses too, like we talked about, which is the toughest conference in the entire flipping world. Teams like Auburn, teams like Alabama, teams like A&M, who all had great defenses. Georgia too, Florida, who has a couple superstar corners in this draft. And in my opinion, he really showed out. He has ability to help in the run game with his athleticism. But I'm just extremely impressed by the throw power, the arm talent. Just work on the accuracy a little bit, work on the decision making a little bit. I think Ron Rivera is a great fit for that. When you have a go-to receiver in Terry McLaurin, that can also very much help that. And when you have a check down back like Antonio Gibson, that also helps that. So I just think Washington's a great fit for him. I like Pickett as a prospect, but I think later on down the road, I think Corral will probably be the better player in the NFL.
For sure. Wrong windpipe. So we could obviously say Minnesota needs a quarterback. I know Bailey would love a quarterback, but he'll make it pretty obvious to you. A corner is needed because burnt toast Patrick Peterson is not good. And Minnesota's not been able to hit on corner a lot. So I think you take the sure thing in Sauce Gardner, who locked up Bama receivers in the Cotton Bowl game and just locked up everyone all year. He's so good, so talented, plays very big.
Because
he's huge. Yeah, he's a huge corner. And just he's your typical press and then ball hawk kind of guy. He reads the quarterback's eyes well, has good feel for in the back end when he does play more of a zone coverage. He just fits what I would hope Minnesota's new GM wants. And obviously they can't hit on a corner. I think this is a can't miss pick at corner just because of how talented he is.
He is can't miss, but if we have him drafted to the Vikings, he could miss. They like to miss on corners a lot, as Bailey could tell you, I'm sure. But nonetheless, man.
Gladney.
Yeah, was Mike Hughes a first round pick? Is that his name?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I believe or Gladney was TCU. I can't remember what Hughes was.
Hughes was UCF.
UCF, yeah. He's on the Chiefs now, whatever.
Anyways, Gardner, I have as my top corner in the draft. He didn't allow a touchdown his entire collegiate career. He played across from Kobe Bryant, which, by the way, I ripped Kobe today. Anyways, so he played across from Kobe Bryant, who actually won the award this year for best DB, like Bailey was talking about with Stingley earlier, with his freshman year, that same award. But Gardner, man, was the best corner on that team. So he's kind of snubbed there. I don't know why Bryant got it, but he's still good too. Gardner is, you want to talk about a guy that played at a smaller school because he's in the Power Five. He's in the group of five, sorry. They're moving to the Power Five, but they played in the group of five. They played a lot of lower level schools that he dominated on. But when he played against higher talent, when he played in that game against Notre Dame, or even though they got smoked, when he played in that game against Alabama, he played really, really well, like at an elite tier. Like he defended those Alabama wide receivers like no one could, other than a couple of flukes here and there that, was partially just the offensive line for Bama melting down, blah, 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 whatever. But this dude shows up every single game. He is one of the most consistent corners throughout his career. He's been consistent. He's had an injury here, there, but he's been really solid injury-wise for the most part and so consistent, and his name is Sauce. So come on, I mean, he's got to be the pick right here. And I do think that if, other than the top end of Stingley's potential, I think that Gardner is probably the best corner in this draft.
Yeah, I think this is home run for Minnesota. And if
You've been preaching this one for
our
a
new
while.
GM screws this up, woo, there will be hell to pay in Minnesota. Oh my God. Like you said, I think he's right there with Booth for potential. I think Stingley's number one. I think Gardner might be the most pro-ready player out of any player in the draft class here right now. 6'2", 6'3", jumps out the gym. The athleticism's there. The IQ is there. The press man is there. He can play zone. He ball hawks. He does everything that you want really out of a corner. He can even help and run when he has to. And like you said, he was paired next to another great corner in Cincinnati. He ain't gonna be paired with in Minnesota. He ain't gonna be paired with crap. He's gonna be paired with, oh God, who is he gonna be paired with? It might be Jeff Gladney. Which, Lord, my soul hurts. But I don't know. I just think Gardner is just the home run pick here. If Stingley somehow falls to 12, I'd take Stingley just for the sole potential. And I don't know if Pat Pete's coming back. Kind of hope so, honestly, just because he can actually play a lick of coverage sometimes, and he has big play potential. He got that one pick six that one time in that one game, but
Against the Bears.
against the Bears.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think Gardner's the pick here, unless Stingley falls, which I don't see happening. We don't see that happening. Gardner's just the most pro-ready corner here, and he has all the traits in the world to be successful. It's just, can Minnesota actually freaking use him for once? The answer is probably no. So Gardner might be cut in 2 years, but we'll see.
Come on, Quessy. Oh man, you're gonna have to start calling him KOM, Cam. That's your GM's name.
Oh, the kick returner?
Quessy, no, your general man.
GM.
Quessy Adolfo Mensa.
There you go. Have fun. Say that 5
I'll
times
just call
fast.
him GM.
GM. Up the box. Let's go to 13. Let's go to Cleveland. I think we're finally going to have a receiver off the board. We kind of went back and forth, though I don't think a lot of us have this guy as the best receiver in the class. I could be mistaken. I just think Chris Olave fits what Cleveland's trying to do. They got to replace whatever the hell Odell was there. I think an Ohio State receiver just makes sense. So between him and Garrett Wilson, I like Olave more than Wilson, but I just think it makes sense for Cleveland to go get a receiver.
Yeah, this is pretty much the typical case here of, well, it's a little bit more specific than what I just mentioned, but let's put the best O-line, the best running back duo, a really nice pair of tight ends, and now multiple very talented receivers to see if we could somehow squeak a playoff win in with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. So we'll see if Chris Olave can do what Odell could not. I wonder how long it's going to take Olave's dad to start posting highlights of Baker missing him. But we'll see. We'll see. I know it's a very proud program, and they're not going to take. I mean, Ohio State's Instagram page and TikTok page will probably be posting videos of Baker missing Olave and saying free Olave. But hey, I mean, at least you're still in Ohio. So he stays around in Ohio, goes from Ohio State to Cleveland. Cleveland's in Ohio. Yeah, they are. I know geography. Anyways, yeah, I mean, you talk about Ohio State wide receivers. They got 3 first-round picks in their wide receiver room. One of them's not eligible. Smith-Njigba, who's the best of the 3. Bailey would agree. The best receiver, I think, consensus here among us was Treylon Burks because of his versatility and everything that he can do running the ball and with jet sweep action and the way you can just give him the ball and what he can do and then still being a really good receiver. I think that true wide receiver wise, Jameson Williams is the best, but tearing your ACL in the national championship, it's going to be a long recovery. And he probably won't be practicing until I don't exactly know how long, but probably into training camp, preseason. I don't even know if he'll be ready by week.
The first month or 2.
Yeah,
So I'll
probably would 8
Burks
months till this time since he's practiced.
Burks with his running upside, I just don't think is the fit with the running game that they already have with those 2 running backs there in Cleveland. So they got to go get a pass catcher. And Olave, I just think, is a little bit better than Wilson, and they're both definitely better than Dotson. Maybe Drake London you can make an argument for, but it feels like a bit of a stretch. So I just like to take Olave with this pick. He would have been a first-round pick last year, too, if he had come out.
Yeah, totally agree. Olave's the guy. I actually think he probably hurt his draft stock a little bit. I know he's going at 13 here. Probably hurt his draft stock a little bit, not going in the draft last year, just because Jackson Smith-Njigba is an animal and basically just stole his starting role as a redshirt sophomore. So, and that doesn't look great on your resume, but that's just how good Jackson Smith-Njigba is. He was a sophomore this year.
Wouldn't he be draft eligible if he was a redshirt sophomore?
My bad. Just a straight up true sophomore. That's what I'm sorry. True sophomore. Excuse me. Yeah, Olave is the safe pick here, in my opinion. If you want to go receiver, he's the one who hasn't been injured. He's the one who hasn't torn his ACL. He's the one who's constantly produced at Ohio State. He's a safe pick. He can route run, great hands. He's really your all-around kind of guy. Doesn't block fairly well, but Cleveland has the best O-line in the league with 2 tight ends that can kind of block. And when you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, you don't really need an offensive line because they're that good. Yeah, Baker's going to be throwing into the ball. I pray for him. But he's off social media now. He's putting in that work. So way to go, Baker.
No more Allstate commercials? Or progressive? Yeah,
commercial.
whatever it is.
Yeah, with Baker Mayfield.
Commercial game is legendary, man. I that's the only reason I root for him to stay as the starting QB, so we can keep this line of progressives coming at. Because those are actually entertaining commercials.
Yeah, those are the only things he has over Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. There's commercials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, Olave is the best fit here for him to go to Cleveland. I know I don't sound too hype with this pick. It's because Baker's going to be throwing the ball. Like, unless they somehow pull something so far back that they manage to grab Aaron Rodgers from the heights of Green Bay and bring him to Cleveland, which I mean, he has a great O-line and a great run game. If you draft Olave, that's necessary. What's up?
And they bring Devontae with him.
Somehow. Cleveland only do $80 million over the cap.
Isn't he? Free agent? Devontae Adams?
Yeah, it sounded like Green Bay is going to franchise tag him. No, at least that's what I'm hearing. And we got to go through that whole process yet again with another star player. But yeah, Olave is the best fit here. The Browns desperately need a receiver to actually, do something on their team. But we have Baker. It is really tough. So good luck.
All right, our next guy on the board kind of just fell and we figured it out afterward. At 14, the Ravens aren't getting any younger on this defensive front. So why not go get George Karlaftis out of Purdue? Very nice edge rusher. Calais Campbell's getting older. I know he plays more of the interior, but I just think the more pressure you can get on these quarterbacks in the AFC North, the better. When you have Joe Burrow, Baker, and whoever's going to be in Pittsburgh.
Baker's the best under pressure. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, he's so great under pressure.
Under pressure.
I think George Karlaftis is the best value pick right now because, really the Ravens should have been a playoff team. Instead, they're picking at 14 because they kept going for 2 and just got unlucky. So I just think the rich get richer. You're going to maybe just replace old vets and get a younger stud. It's as simple as that. Take the best defensive player that's still left on the board at a position that's getting old for the Ravens.
And they took Kwity Paye last year, right?
No.
That would be
take him?
Indy.
That was Indy. Who'd they take last year?
Was it Basham?
They took
They took Bateman, didn't they?
Yeah, they took Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, they took Bateman. My bad.
They actually had 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
They took Penn State's
Onwenu.
Patriots got Michael Onwenu.
Oh man, how can I not remember this
Micah
dude?
Parsons just put him on his Instagram story. I saw it this morning.
I'll let you guys figure out who that draft pick is while I go here real quick. Anyways, yeah, with Karlaftis, he's not as much of an athlete as a Hutchinson or especially like a Thibodeau, but super technical. He's got great pass rush moves. He can be a power rusher. He can be a speed rusher. Like you said, he's a nice infusion of youth into an older defensive front. And for the Ravens here, he's the best player available if he slides this far, which I doubt he does. I just couldn't find the right situation to draft him in with the people that we were drafting until we got to this point. They're going to get Humphrey and Peters back, so their secondary is going to look okay. So I don't think that they need to go corner. They obviously have Lamar. They're going to get J.K. Dobbins back, and their wide receivers. It seems like they draft a first-round wide receiver every year. So I think they just got to ride it out with what they have and hope they finally develop this year. And then they obviously have Mark Andrews at tight end. Their O-line is the only other place that I would make an argument to make a pick, but there's no O-lineman worth picking here. And so I think Karlaftis is the easy choice. And I think got rid of Don Martindale as their DC, which I think was stupid. Hopefully whatever DC they bring in knows how to use him, because I think if Karlaftis is used right, he's another really high floor guy that if is used correctly, you could even add some unforeseen potential to his game, and he could be a really nice piece for a long time.
Yeah, totally agree. Odafe Owe. I knew it was some crazy name.
I knew it was some rookie from Penn State.
Wasn't too bad either.
Yeah, he wasn't terrible. So yeah, he's that mix that everyone's looking for, that Khalil Mack kind of player in a way that can rotate between playing 4-3 end or playing 3-4 outside linebacker, gives you a little more versatility that way. And I think Karlaftis to me is more of a true defensive end in the system. Maybe can even switch to the interior if you want to be a really dominant pass rusher in the interior. I don't know his size off the top of my head right now.
Karlaftis 6'4", 275.
75. So maybe if they want to go really small and then like some nickel formations and some dime formations, they could rotate him in at defensive tackle too, be a third down rusher there for them because they're losing Calais Campbell, who I know is old, but is still really good. And he's a free agent. Maybe they re-sign him, but if they lose him in free agency, Karlaftis is a great pickup just to match that, get younger, like you guys were saying. And he has immense talent. He's more Hutchinson than Thibodeau to me. He's more pro ready. But the potential is still there for him to really develop and be a superstar. This is just, I think, the best fit for him, unless we were looking at maybe if Washington didn't want to take a quarterback and they want to get another rusher on the other side of Chase Young, something like that. Maybe they do have Sweat, or maybe Minnesota for some reason doesn't want Gardner and they go the other side of Daniel Hunter and Michael Pierce and they get Karlaftis there. I also agree with you. The odds of him falling this far aren't pretty high. Most mocks I see him around like 8 or 9. But I think this is the best situation, which we didn't really talk about our criteria. Team needs are very high for us, as you're seeing so far. Like what a team needs is like number 1 on our list of who is going to get drafted. So, and maybe that changes later on when we do other mock drafts, because there will be many editions of this. But Karlaftis, this is his best fit in Baltimore under new DC, which I hope they can use him in OA correctly, because they have extreme potential.
For sure. All right, so Philly has 3 of the next 5 picks. We'll rattle 2 of them off here. At 15, linebacker Devin Lloyd out of the University of Utah. I love Devin Lloyd. He reads blocks very well. Great run stuffer, decent in coverage. Philly just doesn't seem to like drafting linebackers. So if they don't take Devin Lloyd, it wouldn't shock me, but they need a linebacker. So when you can have, I think, the best linebacker in the class fall to you at 15, inside linebacker, I should say, then that's a heyday for Philly. It has to be.
Let's just do the next.
Yeah, let's just do the next one while we're right here at 16. Linderbaum out of Iowa. They need help on that offensive line with Brandon Brooks retiring today.
And maybe even Kelsey.
And Kelsey's up in the air. So there's your 2 best linemen outside of Lane Johnson just out. And Linderbaum can play literally anywhere. He's an Iowa lineman. That's all you got to know. He's the best center we have seen in a long time that can just play anywhere on the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, just take a look at what Creed Humphrey did last year. I mean, he said the centers don't have as much value. That dude, if he wasn't a lineman, would be the offensive rookie of the year, right up there with Jamar Chase, because he's been so good in transforming that Chiefs O-line. Linderbaum, I mean, maybe he doesn't play center if Kelsey sticks around, but obviously 3 first-round picks helps you build for next year for the Eagles. And having 3 first-round picks plus all the rest of your picks, I mean, you can fill all your team needs with first-round picks, which is what's really exciting. You still got to develop them, but, I mean, you look at that defense and you get Devin Lloyd. He's tenacious, can stop the run. They can maybe develop him into a pass defense kind of guy-ish, at least a good enough one. You look at the Eagles linebackers, Derek Barnett, Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards, need some work. I kind of like Singleton a little bit, but they could definitely throw Devin Lloyd in there. And then you get, obviously, last year they took a center in Landon Dickerson, who was up there with Creed Humphrey for who's the best, but he was coming off a torn ACL. They moved him to guard. And then you obviously have Mailata and Johnson on that line. If Kelsey sticks around, maybe you bring in Linderbaum and you can move him to right guard. And then when Kelsey retires, you can move him back to center if he's not as good at guard. But you can fill those 2 big needs. We'll talk about wide receiver in a minute. But I just think that it's so ideal that the Eagles did a great job. They trade Wentz. They have 3 first-round picks, and they still make the playoffs. And they're not a super young team. They're not a super old team. They're kind of in the middle because they got some old, they got some young. More young on the offense, old on the defense. But if they hit with these 3 picks, they will seriously be pushing back up towards that Super Bowl caliber team. I have my own questions about Jalen Hurts as a starting quarterback that leads a team to a Super Bowl. But I think with these 3 picks building around him, you can at least next year tell if he will be the guy. And you'll have a really nice core offensively and defensively in the heart of those 2 units.
Yeah. We're talking about Lloyd and Linderbaum here. I agree with you. Lloyd's the best linebacker prospect here. I think Dean is right up there. Same thing with Harris. I think 1A, 1B, 1C probably when you talk about those guys. But to me, Lloyd's at the top of the list. If you're a middle linebacker named Devin in the NFL, you're doing pretty good right now. White, Bush, probably more of them that I just can't know at the top of my head, but especially Devin White. That dude is a freak of nature. And Devin Lloyd kind of plays the same way. Just tackling machine, freak athlete, can guard sideline to sideline, which is something I didn't say about Kyle Hamilton and his coverage ability. But Lloyd is a sheer just freak run stopper. And then Linderbaum, like we said, Brooks, Kelsey gone. Kelsey potentially gone. Brooks definitely gone. As he retired this morning. Slide him right in there. Like you said, one of the better offensive lineman prospects in this draft. Hands down the best center / guard prospect in this draft, most likely. So those are two great picks there. Everyone wants to question Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I think you got to write him out because I don't really care much for the quarterback potential that is left here. Like, I don't know. Some of these guys, they just really don't do it for me. Like Howell doesn't do it for me in Philly. Carson Strong doesn't do it for me in Philly. Malik Willis is just an underdeveloped version of what Jalen Hurts is right now, in my opinion. So he doesn't really do it for me. Same thing with Ritter. I think more Ritter actually is just a rookie version of Jalen Hurts. Maybe Malik Willis plays a little differently. But none of those guys really do it for me. Howell didn't prove it this year. If anything, it's maybe Strong, but I feel like you're just kind of getting another bigger, stronger Wentz in that situation, who isn't as gifted arm-wise. So I don't think any of those really make sense. Fill out the team around Hurts. I think he's got to be your franchise quarterback these next 4 to 5 years until you're probably bad again or a quarterback falls to you. I think Hurts just kind of has to be your guy, and you just have to hope he develops into a superstar, which he has potential to do. In the past 2 years, he's putting up the same numbers Lamar Jackson put up in his first 2 years. The numbers are there. So, and that includes Lamar's MVP year. So, I know Lamar got benched for Flacco for like those first few games. So it was like the first 24 games I think I saw. They had the same numbers. They're almost identical. So I think Hurts has to be your guy. You build the offensive line around him. You have a great run game with Miles Sanders, you just got to use the damn guy. 5.7 yards a carry, and he's like a billionth in the NFL in carries this year. Like, and you spend your picks on Kenneth Gainwell, don't really use him. You turn to Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, whatever. You get your Mike linebacker, your leader, to pair with Singleton, who is good. He is very good. He was like top 10 in tackles this year, I think. Had a pick 6 against the Giants. So I'm from Montana State, so I have to like him.
Yeah, exactly. It's
odd,
but he's good. He is good. And if you can build that middle linebacker core, go 3-4, I think it'll really help them out in the long run. I think those 2 picks are fantastic.
All right, let's shift to 17. The Chargers, kind of disappointment this year, if we're being honest. Thought they could have made a playoff run. I think this is the most concise and obvious one. Like, if he falls to them, I think it's Jordan Davis out of Georgia. The thing the Chargers learned is they need a run-stopping defensive tackle, which is what Jordan Davis is, because they couldn't stop Josh Jacobs in the game when it mattered most. I think this is a home run pick. You know, the questions of how many downs he'll play, it is what it is. He's gifted in the run game. He can get a little bit of a pass rush. And if you can get your teams in your division, like the Broncos, to have problems running the ball just because of Jordan Davis, that's a home run pick. And it can't be any simpler than that. I think Jordan Davis to the Chargers is a match made in heaven. Yeah.
You've seen the games for the Chargers where they've struggled. They were able to hold up against the Chiefs, beating them and then almost beating them again, because they can survive in those shootout kind of games. They're more geared to defend the pass and pass rush, and then compete against that by doing it with their own offense, which is capable of doing such things. And when they've struggled, I feel like they've really gotten grinded down with that running game, those games where they give up like 200 rushing yards. Jordan Davis is built to do one thing and one thing only, and that is stuff the run. He's not going to play all the downs. He goes out there for run-stopping downs, and he is so, so good at that. That is what keeps him from being able to be like a top 10 pick, like this super stud D lineman that you want, like generational D line talent. But he's such a perfect fit for the Chargers because there's the thing that they struggled with was stopping the run. The Chargers are a traditional 3-4 team that plays a nose tackle a lot of the time. He is a nose tackle, run stuffing D tackle. And so he fits so perfectly with this team. He's got the size, the strength. They use him the right way. And this is like a plug and play, like perfect fit on this team. I've had him mocked the Chargers in every single mock draft I've done. I've changed plenty of things. I've kept this the same in every mock draft. If he is there at 17, I just feel like this is the pick for Jordan Davis.
Yeah, when we talk about team needs, Chargers run defense is glorified at number one. That and probably Minnesota's pass coverage.
And
What?
Giants.
And
Lions.
the Giants, everything. But yeah, Jordan Davis. I mean, the size. Holy Jesus. I don't think the Great Wall of China can hold up this guy. He is absolutely insane. Up on that defensive front, like you said, just his ability to run stuff. We talked about how bad Staley's timeout was on this podcast, plenty of time. But you got to get the stop on 3rd and 3, and you know they're going to run the ball with Josh Jacobs. You have 7, 8 guys in the box, and you can't even sniff Josh Jacobs as he gets an 8-yard run. They kick the field goal. They're in the playoffs now playing the Bengals instead of you playing the Chiefs. Congrats. So I think maybe people will lean toward DeMarvin Leal just for the value perspective of it. But like we said, team need and scheme fit is 1A on all of our lists. So Jordan Davis does that to a T. He's like Ekonwu for the Giants in that situation, or Gardner for Minnesota in that situation. These are team needs that have to be addressed immediately. If the Chargers land Davis, I think they were the 3rd worst rushing defense in the league this year. It seemed like they were the worst rushing defense in the league this year because they lost every game, it seemed like, where a team would just grit and grind on them. Because like you said, Luke, they're hanging out with the Chiefs when they can put points on the board whenever the hell they want to. They cannot, for the love of God, stop the run ever. And their entire team is built for pass coverage. Kenneth Murray is a pass coverage linebacker. Joey Bosa is a pass rush style DN / left outside linebacker. Guys like Nwosu, who's a free agent this year. He's more of a pass coverage linebacker. Derwin is the only guy on that team that I can physically tackle someone and put him on the ground in the run and do it with like it's 100% guarantee. Like dude just doesn't miss tackles. So you have to add that just sheer size. And then not only that, if he's on there for run stopping downs, you kind of have to double team him just because he's so gigantic that if you do pass on 1st down, that leaves Bosa one-on-one on the outside. That means Bosa eats all night.
Yeah, Raiders centers and guards are definitely not going to be able to stop him.
Absolutely not. So they're going to have to double team him in the pass just because the size is so much of a presence that Bosa is going to manhandle Alex Leatherwood at right tackle. So
in right guard, he actually got moved back.
And right guard, yeah. Well, he sucks at both positions. So
another great Raiders pick.
Yeah, another great Raiders pick. We're getting to them soon. So yeah, Jordan Davis, perfect scheme fit. Love him in LA.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as a Charger, not a Ram, because he sure shit ain't taking Aaron Donald's job. So yeah, let's move to New Orleans. You know, they've had a lot of interesting stuff of late. Sean Payton being out of there. And you know what? Let's give him the receiver that I think me and Luke think at least are the best. I think, I was gonna say Bailey as well. Treylon Burks, receiver out of Arkansas. It's gonna depend on whoever's quarterback. If it's Taysom Hill next year, this is a match made in heaven because of Taysom Hill's ability to run the ball and Burks' ability to be just a bigger version and more powerful version of a Deebo Samuel. So when you compare him to a Deebo Samuel, that's worthy of a top 20 pick at least. And the Saints need help at receiver outside of Mr. Slants and always injured in a boot, Michael Thomas and Kamara. They really don't have much receiving threat. So Treylon Burks could come in, be that number 2, be that gadget player, just like a Kamara.
I think that a lot of what was wrong with the Saints offense was having no threat of a passing game. They were trying to rely on the run so heavily that Alvin Kamara went from the type of guy that gets 15 carries for 100 yards or 15 carries for 80 yards and like 10 catches for another 80 yards and a couple of touchdowns. And you couldn't defend their offense because you didn't know if Kamara was running a route, splitting out wide, if he was going to get the carry. He kind of turned into like a very effective, might I mention, but kind of more just a downhill runner. Like they'd give him like 30 carries in a game. It's not how you use Alvin Kamara. They have to have a threat of a passing game. Getting Michael Thomas back will help. We'll see what they do at quarterback. Traylon Burks adds such another element to this offense. And I know it sort of contradicts what I just said because, you want more of a true pass catcher. You get that with Thomas. But Traylon Burks he's like a bigger Deebo Samuel. We've said that in discussions before several times in the college football pods when we talked about Traylon Burks. But he's like almost impossible to tackle. He can run routes, catch balls. He can run your jet sweeps. You can set up your screen passes with him. He could run out and block for you on screens or in the run game. And you can use him all over the field and defenses don't know where to use him. They don't need to draft defense. They don't need to draft O-line. They don't need to draft running back. And I don't think they should go quarterback at this point. I think wide receiver is the obvious pick. And with the pure value of everything that Traylon Burks can do, I think you add another elite threat with Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara on this offense in that weapon room that really will be very enticing to whoever they go out and try to get to replace Sean Payton.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I think we all agree Burks has the highest potential in this class. He might not be the most pro-ready guy, but I think at the end of the day, when we talk about athleticism, he's 1A at everyone's list. He's just a freak athlete, 6'3", 6'4", could go up and get it with the best of them. Did it all at Arkansas. And just the sheer size and speed combo that he has just grants him a top 20 slot. Flipping John Ross was like the 12th pick.
No, he was top 10.
Was he top 10? Just because he ran a 4.22. So
6. No.
7.
6.
4.27. 4.27. 4.2 something.
We were talking about.
Oh, you got picked at 7? Okay, my bad. I thought you ran a 4.22 40.
Yeah.
Like that 40-yard dash time solely got him into the top 10. So he's just a freak athlete. The hands are like Kawhi Leonard size plus another 1.5 inches.
5XL gloves.
Yeah, he wears 5XL gloves on game day. So I mean, the hands are bigger than the football itself. The physical ability is something to behold. When you add that with a guy like Michael Thomas, who is physically gifted, but he's more of a route technician kind of guy, and his ability to get open is what makes him so good. Traylon Burks is the opposite of that. His ability to rely on sheer athleticism and speed makes him so good. So, and then you can take, like you guys said, take the load off Kamara a little bit. Kamara, I think he had 30 carries against the Jets. He should not be getting 30 carries in any game, much less against the Jets. So, and he did well in that game. I think he had like 120 some yards, but that's just not his style. His style is what he did against Seattle, which is where he had 12 to 15 catches. I'm serious though. No, I'm being serious. I know you're giving me that look, but I'm serious. He had like 8 catches in one drive, and they scored a touchdown on that drive and solely won him the game because Seattle was starting Geno Smith. So, like, take the load off Kamara a little more, get Traylon Burks, have him be an all-around weapon, and just get some athleticism in that wide receiver core that they desperately need.
Luke, you better watch yourself. Your Seahawks are turning into the Vegas Raiders very quickly. Not gonna Mr. Geno Smith DUI.
Well, at least mine didn't get a DUI and then go 156 and kill somebody in a flaming car wreck.
This is true, but just saying.
Or how about a DUI and then 2 weeks later another DUI?
How about Arnett?
No, Arnett was the one that waved the semi-automatic rifle around and threatened to kill someone 30 times in a live Instagram video.
That's right. Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry to bring it up, but it had to be said. Let's go to another receiver ranked on Pro Football Network as the best receiver in the class. Garrett Wilson falls to the Eagles. Clearly, the Eagles need another receiver. Devontae Smith cannot do it all. Experiments with other receivers have been pointless. Garrett Wilson can just go up, high point the ball.
You not a JJ Arcega-Whiteside fan?
I love JJ Arcega-Whiteside when he plays the Cowboys.
You know who my favorite player in the league is?
Who?
Jalen Reagor.
Jalen Reagor's so good. Could you imagine, think about it. Drafting Jalen Reagor before, let's say, hypothetical here, Justin Jefferson.
No.
I shit you not.
Did they actually do that?
Hey, as legend says, that's what happened. But in all seriousness, the Eagles seriously need another receiver.
For the 6th year in a row.
Yeah. When do they not need a receiver? And like we said, when you have 3 first-round picks, you better be hitting on all of them and fill team needs. You fill your linebacker need. You fill your missing hole on the offensive line. And let's just try to finally fix the receiver issue. So Garrett Wilson, Ohio State receiver. So, they're pretty good with McLaurin and Thomas. So I just pray the Eagles use them right. I kind of don't, but I hope they kind of do.
Just so that your prediction sounds good, right?
Yeah.
Anyway. I hope he does good because I hate the Cowboys. But anyways, Garrett Wilson, 6'1", 192 here. He's predicted as more of a slot guy. That could work out nicely for Hurts because Hurts is a scrambling kind of guy. Having those underneath routes and those slot routes are nice for him, along with tight end routes. Is really worked out nicely for Lamar Jackson too. It's nice that Devontae Smith worked out. God forbid the Eagles had another wide receiver that sucked. Jalen Reagor was an interesting one because he was not good in college. And then he came to the NFL and shockingly was not good. And
I never would have thought.
He had all these chances to prove himself this year. And shockingly enough, he dropped them literally. Dropped 2 game-winning passes in the same game that I can't remember exactly who they were playing.
Was that the Chargers or the Giants?
It
was the Giants
game.
game.
Into a returner, and they said, well, at least he's a good returner. And then he muffed 2 punts against the Buccaneers in the playoff game. So I'm really digging deep to try and find out what the hell that guy can do. So that's why you go out and get Garrett Wilson to kind of, just don't look at Jalen Reagor. You don't have to think about him anymore. Bring this guy in the building. Then you don't have to run Quez Watkins out there as often as you have been. You don't have to think about JJ Arcega-Whiteside, who you took over McLaurin and Metcalf and other people. So yeah, I mean, you got to fill the wide receiver need. I made a case for Jameson Williams, but the knee injury, obviously, and I do like the fit with the slot kind of build here with Garrett Wilson, and I think he's a talented guy too, who maybe he was bolstered a little bit by the other guys at Ohio State. Maybe he was overshadowed a little bit by the other guys at Ohio State, and he truly is one of the top level wide receivers, elite guys in this class. And we'll see how it turns out. We'll see how they use him there, Sirianni in the offense, and how Hurts hits him there. See if they get a nice connection. And for America's sake, hopefully he's a top 5 wide receiver and he shreds the. Never mind. Anyways,
that's right. America's team. That's right. That's what
you mean.
Here.
Okay, America's Texas team.
You brought it up.
You too. Yeah, Garrett Wilson. Yeah, I think all the points you made are very valid, Luke, especially the one about Minnesota Vikings legend Jalen Reagor. And his ability to
just love that,
contribute to our franchise. Thank you so much.
You should be thanking Howie Roseman over there.
I love you, Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson. Thank you so much for gifting us the 3rd best receiver in the league currently.
I mean, that was when they made it. I mean,
Breakers too, right?
Yeah, I'm sure Reagor had 220 receiving yards in the first half of the national championship game. Yeah, that definitely was not him. Yeah, I really think the Eagles really scouted that national championship game tape really well. As far as Garrett Wilson goes, yeah, he's kind of your slot guy. Smith also kind of strikes me as a guy that can work really well out of the slot just because the route running is so proficient. He's not huge, but he can also play the outside. He's an all-around do-it guy. Garrett Wilson is also kind of that same build where he can play in the slot, but he also has jump ball ability on the outsides. He's got spectacular catch traits, I guess you could say. And I think he'd fit really nicely in Philly because Lord, do they need him. And then you have a tight end kind of like what Baltimore's been trying to build. I mean, Devonta Smith, Marquise Brown, Goddard, Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. We talked about that comparison earlier. And now you got Rashad Bateman for the Ravens, and now Garrett Wilson, who's kind of that same style player for the Eagles if they draft him here. So I think those would all work very well. You can kind of develop your mini Baltimore in Philadelphia, just with, in my opinion, a better offensive line. And honestly, what was this year was the better run game because they had the number one rushing offense. So they can build around that, run that through Hurts. Garrett Wilson's a great slot just to really round out this offense all the way through if he hits.
Hey, if Howie Roseman's watching this, it's pretty easy to rebuild your Eagles. I'm not going to lie. I mean, taking Justin Jefferson instead of Rager was the obvious, and then we just drafted 3 studs that can help your team. So there you go.
They should just hire us, honestly, as like a trio of GMs for the Eagles.
We'll scout everyone.
And I do agree with you a little bit, Luke, on Williams. I think he'd be the better fit if he didn't tear his ACL in the national championship game.
Brutal.
I would have went, honestly,
probably where Olave
I think
is.
he would have went where Olave was, and then Olave falls down to 19 year for the Eagles if Williams didn't tear his ACL. Somewhat in that form, I think Treylon Burks is perfect for the Saints. So, and then you just have that Alabama connection through Hurts, Smith, and Williams. And then develop your own Crimson Tide in Philly that way. So either way works though. Either way works.
Yeah.
If they go Williams or they go Wilson, they shouldn't be mad at either one. They really, if they manage to screw this one up.
Ooh. Yeah, if you're looking at this is a
hold on, wait. Let me see here. There's got to be a TCU wide receiver in this class.
Let's just move on.
Give me. Oh, come on. No TCU guys? Let's go with Stanley Berryhill III.
Sounds like a stud.
I don't know. Just pick a guy that's not good and they'll probably take him.
There you go. I can't believe he's fallen this far. He's ranked 6. DeMarvin Leal to the Steelers. It makes sense. They're getting old up front with Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt. It makes sense to just get a young guy rolling in. Him and Watt on that D-line could be scary. They need the run help. I mean, it's as simple as that. They play in a division with Lamar Jackson, with the two-headed monster in Cleveland, with Joe Mixon. So you got to be able to stop it at some point. The Steelers are always stacked up front, not as much as Steel Curtain days, but they're stacked up front. And DeMarvin Leal being not a younger understudy to a Cam Hayward, but really just that next piece that's really missing and then can slide in when Cam Hayward eventually hangs him up.
Yeah. And Tuitt too. They didn't have Tuitt a lot of last year. DeMarvin Leal's a nice guy, is nice because he has inside and outside flexibility too, pass rush and run stop. He's part of a really good defense there at Texas A&M. Super athletic too, as a guy that's 6'4", 290. Let's see here. What do we got? Oh, that's some good stuff. But yeah, just solid all around. The flexibility is nice, especially when, maybe you're drafting before, if a guy maybe just randomly retires or you don't know what the injuries are. So having that flexibility so that you don't have to go in and, you're missing an edge rusher, so you throw in some scrub. You can move a guy from the inside to the outside where you have more depth in the inside. And then you have the ability to continue to get that great pass rush with guys like Hayward and Watt and Highsmith and Tuitt or whoever's there, but to also get that run stopping, which they were clearly missing last year and was a big reason why their defense just was not quite up to the same level. A lot of people think maybe quarterback here, but with Pickett gone, Corral gone, maybe they go for the big fish like Rodgers or something like that. But I like this pick. and I have mentioned, I think there is a growing feeling among Steelers fans that is a very grim one. Perhaps they stick around with that, with a Rudolph or a Haskins. They stay in house anyways. If they do so, I think Leal is the easy pick at this spot.
Yeah, Leal's a steal here, bars. But I mean, it perfectly fits. Like you said, he's the most pro-ready defensive tackle here. I know Jordan Davis is just a physical freak of nature. So is Leal in his own right. And, you saw the ability at A&M under Jimbo Fisher. And I think that's going to translate very well to what the Steelers are trying to do here. I know Tomlin wants to go quarterback, and he wants the run-heavy kind of guy because he's been playing with Ben, which is either Willis or Ritter, which if he wants to take them, I think they can fall. I know if it's quarterback, you go get your guy, but I think Ritter's more of a late second, early third round kind of guy. I think Willis is more of a middle second kind of guy, which is kind of right where the Steelers are. So I think if you want to get either of those guys, I think they'll have the ability to take them in the middle second. Leal is the obvious pick here. Sure up that D line. Cam Hayward's going to be gone in a year or two. It sounds like he's ready to be gone. So fill that defensive line and give TJ Watt another presence up there and let Tomlin run with that. DeMarvin Leal is perfect here for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, for sure. 21's New England. David Ojabo, defensive end out of Michigan. Perfect pairing opposite of Judon. The Patriots defense is their defense. They always, doesn't matter who's playing, are nasty defensively. We just really couldn't come up with an offensive fit that was other than receiver, which we kind of threw around Jameson Williams. He seems like a Patriots pick, but and his connection with Mac Jones. But we really couldn't find a way to put him with New England. I just don't see a way they take him. I think they take the more obvious safe pick, go with Jabo, and shore up that defense for the future, because Judon is not the youngest of characters, so that makes a lot of sense to draft a younger version of what a Matthew Judon is.
Right, we have some power. I was searching for my computer charger. It was on low battery. But anyway, Ojabo, yes. So Ojabo would be a nice pick here, go on the other side of Judon. Judon started to struggle a little bit at the end of the year. They lost some of that pass rush that they had early in the year. Was part of the reason why the Patriots were struggling late there. Bailey's obviously more of a Patriots fan than I am. He probably knows more than me about the exact reasons behind all that. But I think Ojabo's a nice piece. He kind of reminds me of like Kwity Paye. He's sort of like more of a project piece. He's got great athleticism. He broke out a little bit more this last year at Michigan than Paye really ever did at Michigan. And so I think maybe he's a little bit safer than Paye. But Ojabo, yes, very athletic, edge rusher. Is a guy that I feel is he's 6'5", so he's got great length. I think that maybe there's this thing in the back of my head that's telling me that there's going to be a team that reaches on him and takes him a lot higher than this, just because of the potential that he has, being a redshirt sophomore, very young, on the other side. But he was also on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, so that might have helped him. But you're going to be on the other side of Matthew Judon, so you kind of get that same sort of scenario. I don't know as much about Ojabo as I probably should. He's more of a foreign guy, wasn't always in America. Those international projects or prospects are always very interesting to follow. And I think he will be a very interesting piece. He reminds me of, like I said, Paye, and like we talked about with Owe, as being those sort of international guys that were more projects than prospects last year, that can really get big if they're developed the right way, but can also really miss bad if you don't. And I think under Belichick, I think he could really find the right way to develop and use Ojabo.
Yeah. Sorry, I zoned out. What did you want me to talk about with the Pats?
Oh, I was just saying that you're more Patriots fan, so you probably know more why exactly the Patriots started to struggle at the end of last year compared to when they were really killing it and everyone thought they would win the AFC.
NFC East, yeah. New England really runs heavy through the run game, of course, offensively. And it was what caught me is like Judon was on fire those first 10 weeks of the season. Judon looked like first team all pro, looked like the best free agent signing of the year, all of the above. And something happened. Maybe it was Barmore wasn't stepping up to the plate. There's something in that front seven that just they weren't as feisty anymore to me. And I think, I believe it's Winovich on the other end. They play a little more 4-3 with the addition of Barmore because their middle linebackers aren't super well rounded and they're fairly old. Like Jamie Collins is back there for like the 8th time, and Dante Hightower is still there. So I think getting some youth up front with Ojabo here is key in doing so. And I think he's a great fit. Winovich, also a Michigan guy, if I'm not mistaken. So adding in another guy like Ojabo to pair alongside Judon. Winovich can play outside backer. He's fast, so he has the ability to do that at that size. And he can be more of a utility guy, swing him in on 3rd down pass rush situations. And Ojabo's kind of a do-it-all pro-ready guy, but he has supreme talent and potential. He is a little bit more of a project, which kind of contradicts what I just said, I guess, but he is a little bit more of a project compared to a guy like Hutchinson, which he had the common courtesy of playing with Hutchinson every Saturday. So if you pair him with a guy like Judon, who's going to take double teams occasionally and get him in on first, second, he can be a 3-down lineman kind of guy. So that's his potential there. He has top 10 pick potential too. It's just guys like Leal, Jordan Davis, they fit those teams up higher better. And the NFL is moving toward more of a pass. So we have a bunch of corners there up top, which kind of explains why these DNs are falling. But Ojabo can make a force. And if you got Belichick coaching you, that's always a good sign.
For sure. All right, let's go typical Raiders pick. Here we go at 22. I believe we have, let me go to our list right here. Oh, you're good. Roger McCreary, cornerback out of Auburn. Kind of the, wild card to all of this. We have a normal draft and then Raiders show up to town. We know Mike Mayock is out of GM, so this could be a complete wrench in what usually happens. But I think Roger McCreary corner, they lost Arnett because of all his crap. They just need help in that secondary because Herbert torched them in that last game. Same kind of thing with Mahomes being in that division. And who knows if Kenny Pickett's in your division. There's 3 great quarterbacks. You need corners. You don't have a lot because they're all either old or in jail. So Roger McCreary is the typical Raiders pick. He fits the scheme. I think he could be really good in Vegas, but only time will tell, really.
It feels like the Raiders are drafting DBs in the top 2 rounds every single year and never hitting on them or sending them to prison. I mean, at some point we gotta break the cycle here. I think maybe McCreary could do that. I think he's a good guy. I don't know enough about him, but I mean, obviously Vegas can change you, especially the Raiders. The Raiders, as I would like to call them.
Raiders.
No Gruden, no Mayock. So, like you said, maybe they draft a little bit differently. Maybe they go more for a lot, something like that. But yeah, I mean, I like McCreary a little bit in specific scenarios, more press man teams that don't need a number 1 corner. I think McCreary could maybe develop well Casey Hayward rods to death in Las Vegas. So we'll see. I don't know enough about McCreary, but I know that he did play really well against Bama like Gardner did in that game against Auburn where Bama really struggled and nearly lost. And based off that alone, you can tell that he's really talented. 6 foot 190. He's a senior, a little bit older than some of these guys. He's a quick guy, more of an outside guy, but can kind of play either place. But like I said, more of a man guy. Zone is touchy. depends on what the Raiders are going to play. And like you said, they have a lot of old pieces on that defense, and still a lot of holes to fill, even with the pick of Mccreary. But we'll see. I mean, he's not going to push them over the top, but we'll have to see what they do in free agency first. They can get some corners in free agency. Maybe the draft strategy and the mock draft changes. But right now, I just think that if I'm drafting with the mind of the Raiders, that I'm taking Mccreary.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, Raiders need corner every year, it seems like. With the loss of Damon Arnett, that just makes it even more so yet again. Casey Hayward's 47, playing corner for the Raiders still. Who else do we say they had? Nate Hobbs. They lost him.
Trufant.
Yeah, Trufant, who's also like 42, it seems like. He's still playing corner. They got a retirement home basically out there.
Great place
corner,
to live, I guess.
which Casey Hayward they're still decent players. I'm not hating on them. It's just you got to get some youth there. And they struggled there. Herbert tore him up in that big game. Burrow tore him up in that game. So getting some youth there, a guy out of Auburn and Roger McCreary, who shut down Jameson Williams and John Mechie in that game, was locked down really that entire competition. So I don't know too much about him, but I'm going to go off what Luke was saying. Well-rounded guy. Seems like he can help stop the run a little bit too, because I don't remember Brian Robinson having that big of a game against Auburn. So helping to run a little bit. And I think that's a very Raider-like pick, but I think this one actually might turn out fairly well for them.
Yeah, for sure. 23, again, kind of a typical pick. We're going Cardinals, we're going secondary, and we're going Trent McDuffie, cornerback, Washington. They love their Washington corners out there in Arizona. They love the Washington secondary, if we're being honest. And I mean, like we were talking about earlier, Trent McDuffie, before we start recording, has been mocked as high as 10. Like, he's getting a lot of hype of late. I don't think a lot of us see a top 10, top 15 pick out of him, but 23 is a perfect fit. The Cardinals always need help in the secondary with that division, now with Cooper Kupp being there. Well, the Cooper Kupp now, developing to what he is. And then if Odell stays with the Rams, you've got Debo and Kittle, and then you've got DK and Lockett to worry about. So your secondary's got to be strong in this division. Just getting more young talent in that secondary is what Arizona needs.
See, when you're drafting a Washington DB, I know this because I follow all the Washington players at second level. We're not talking about like the wild card random guys from Washington. But I've basically diagnosed 3 tiers, and there's the lowest tier, which is F tier, basically, with Kevin King. You could end up with Kevin King. You could end up, right on line with a Byron Murphy, Sidney Jones type, and they could be pretty solid. Or you could end up with Budda Baker, and he could be a superstar, transcendent talent type of defensive player that you build your team around. Now, the question is, where does Mr. McDuffie land on this spectrum? Washington sucked last year, but they still, in the Pac-12, allowed the least passing yards. Him and Kyler Gordon, who's going to go later in this draft, he's probably a day 3 pick, another cornerback from Washington. McDuffie's really solid, though. He plays man and zone. He's 5'11", 195, so he could slide inside, more of a nickel slot guy if they wanted to, but he could play outside too. He's very physical. Washington cornerbacks are always extremely physical. He obviously can play the run because Washington corners have to know how to play the run. I think where you get these Washington corners is kind of airing it deep more. He could play the ball a little bit. I don't know. I don't know as much about him as I would like, him being from Washington. He's not a super big length guy, but I think he could be solid. It depends on the development, where he's going to end up. Budda Baker is a total dog, but I think he's going to be more like Byron Murphy. He'll show up in some big spots. He'll be pretty consistent. I don't think he's going to be like a Kevin King type of player. I don't foresee him being a superstar, like on the level of like the Stingley's and the Gardners, but I also think that he's a nice solid pick here for the Cardinals, who, like the Raiders, feel like they're drafting the same position every year, just kind of taking swings in the dark and not really ever hitting, but not necessarily missing. And I don't know. I mean, but I wouldn't say that he's going to be the guy that's going to magically fix them crashing and burning every back half of the season with Cliff Kingsbury. But we'll see. I think he's a solid player, though.
Yeah, I'm with you on McDuffie. I do compare him a lot to Byron Murphy. I mean, I think that's a super easy one. That's the layup there. Coming out of Washington, Byron Murphy's a little bit bigger, taller, a little more lengthy, but McDuffie plays fairly big, which is what I like about him. He's making a lot of noise from what I'm hearing. Daniel Jeremiah, if you want to go check out his mock draft, he had him at 10 to the Jets, which is where we had Stingley. So seems like he's catching a lot of eyes and ears for NFL scouts, and he might go way higher than 23. He might be a second round pick. Lord knows with him. Inconsistent on what his range is actually going to be, because this corner class, while deep, is either very potential, future based, or it's very pro ready now. And McDuffie's neither or. He's kind of just in the middle, in my opinion. But he has high potential. And I think if you pair him with Buddha, with Byron Murphy, he knows that who he's going to be playing with. And you cannot have enough corners in a division that has Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham, Robert Woods, has DK and Tyler Lockett, has Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel. So secondary is a must in that division. And then you have offensive masterminds in Shanahan, McVay, and Kingsbury. So like you have to have a defense, even though Kingsbury, on his team. But yeah, that's really all I gotta say about him.
All right, let's go to the Cowboys. Yay! I'm so excited to be picking at 24. Yay! If y'all didn't watch that Niners game, clearly there needs to be help on that offensive line. They're all getting old. It's sad to see, it is what it is. So I really like Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa. I think he fits what Dallas wants to do. He's big, he's powerful, he's a great run blocker, but he also can set up well in the pass. I know we're not as much of a run-heavy team as we used to be, but I think personally we've got to kind of get back to that because that's when we were successful. I think it's a smart pick. It's the smart pick. Is it the pick I want? No, but it's a smart pick. I would love a Jaquan Brisker or a Daxton Hill in the back end because we're going to be losing KZ. So it is what it is, but you got to protect the investments that you have offensively who don't show up in big games. So you just got to somehow protect them. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, there's been some rumors heard about Lyle Collins and maybe not being as hard of a worker as some would like, and more just getting to play because he's forced to because of his contract that he has. But Penning, I feel like, is a little bit of the opposite. I mean, he's 6'7", so there's that. He could play either tackle. He'll obviously play right if they have Tyron Smith at left tackle, assuming that he's starting over Collins, which is just as I'm talking about in the assumption I'm making, but it probably won't happen immediately. He's not going to play guard because he's 6'7", but he's more of the gritty, hard nose. Like he's more of a hard worker than he is talented. He's still very talented, but comes from a smaller school. He's going to be known more as like a Quinn Miners type of guy, or like, oh man, the guys that I can't remember last year. But Northern Iowa had another guy drafted from their line last year too. These guys are more, that you see these clips of them breaking trees and all this kind of stuff because they work hard and they're super tough, which is really nice, especially on the O-line. He would fit a nice power run scheme, which the Cowboys could have if they wanted, because they have the O-line to do it and they got the running backs to do it, but they just don't like to a lot. They also could have him drop back and turn him into a pass blocker because he's 6'7". So you would hope that you could turn him into that, and then maybe give Dak enough time to Yeah, I'm not gonna say it anyways. But yeah, I mean, I think this would be a nice pick here because then it's like an insurance plan. If your investment on Collins doesn't work out, you got this. If you got injuries with Tyron Smith, it works out there. If he ends up leaving in the near future, this offseason, next offseason, retiring, or this random stuff that could happen that I have no idea about, then he also could fill in there. So I think he's nice to have there, and you could develop him, and he really has some of the not better raw potential, like truly raw, like not Stingley raw where he's shown it, but like raw where people haven't necessarily seen it on a bigger stage. And if you could tap into it, you could really find a beast here, Trevor Penning.
Yeah, Penning is a pure size, just demon. Strength and power and work ethic are probably this man's motto.
It's about drive. It's about power.
Yeah, he listens to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson constantly. But I'm with Luke on this one. There is a lot of talent here. I could also see the Cowboys going edge here and getting a guy like Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State or Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, just to get Randy Gregory's 5 offsides a game self off the field, and get more potential there, get a little bit more discipline in that front unit, along with Parsons, along with DeMarcus Lawrence, and run that in Van Der Esch as well. I could also see him going classic Jerry Jones, getting like Nakobe Dean, who's just high potential, high athleticism, but kind of out there mentally, I guess I could say. But I do think Penning is a decent fit. And if they keep Collins, they can move him to well, Martin plays right guard, so they can move him left guard. Who plays left guard for y'all? That's a great question. So yeah,
Connor Williams.
Connor Williams. Yeah, he's not that good. So and Collins has experience playing both guard positions. I believe that's what he started out as.
Yep.
Was a guard.
He started out as left guard.
Exactly. So if he does want to stay, you can move him to left guard, and Dallas yet again has a great offensive line.
That they won't do anything with.
To have Tony Pollard run the ball for him and Dak to run QB draws for him. So there you go.
Yeah, maybe they'll make it a couple more yards and they won't even they'll make 2 more yards so the clock will run out before.
Anyway, let's go to pick 25, Buffalo Bills.
Do you remember who we had going here, Luke? Buffalo?
Oh yeah, Walker from Georgia.
Okay, that's right.
That's who we were talking about. Good old Trayvon Walker. Look, you're playing in a division that does not have great quarterbacks. More of a run game oriented teams you play against. When you have a Mac Jones, a Zach Wilson.
It's top 5 in the league. I don't want to hear it.
So you got to have a guy that can shut down the run on the edge. That's what Trayvon Walker is. You saw that Georgia defense. Like, they were top notch against the run, and in the back end were great. Just bringing in a guy that has that pedigree, that comes from that tree, whatever you want to call it, only elevates your team. And it just makes sense that Buffalo, we're not going to say it, but they kind of needed defensive help in their game against the Chiefs. It's kind of obvious. Is it Trayvon Walker? I hope, because they didn't get a ton of pressure on Mahomes, and when they did, he was able to escape. And Trayvon Walker can keep the edge really well. So I think it's a match made in heaven. He falls to probably the perfect situation because Buffalo keeps picking these defensive end, whatever you want to call them, and they just don't work out.
Rousseau last year.
Yeah. I just think this is a better fit for Buffalo compared to a Rousseau from last year. But yeah, Trayvon Walker to the Bills, very interesting pick for sure.
So here's the thing. I think the Bills are drafting completely with the Chiefs in mind. So they're going to draft not just the best fit for them, but the best fit to help them beat the Kansas City Chiefs, because that is what they've been unable to do the last 2 years. And I think one of the biggest problems for them against the Chiefs, other than just getting torched by Mahomes' greatness, was being able to win. I mean, you noticed early in that game, especially in the first half, they were actually covering receivers downfield very well. And you looked at replays they were showing, they had them covered. What could they not do? Mahomes would run around and they could not, for the life of them, tackle that dude. So let's go in, get a dude who's a very good run defender, a very high effort player, played in a very complex defensive scheme. So he's got a very high football IQ. He is extremely athletic and can move sideline to sideline. And he's also got great size at 6'5", 275 pounds as an edge rusher that can also slant inside, not as an interior pass rusher, but on like slants and stunts and blitzes, he can slant inside. I think that would be really, really nice for them. They obviously tried to do this last year with Rousseau and Boogie Basham. I watched both of those dudes fall flat on their face chasing down Patrick Mahomes. So you got to give it another shot. Bring in Trayvon Walker. And I mean, you could honestly just bring him in and say, man, we'll give you a $5 million bonus if you could tackle Patrick Mahomes in the backfield, because they got to show some form of competence defensively against the Chiefs, because if they could do just that, then just maybe they could hold them off for 13 seconds and they would be in the AFC Championship game. So I just think it's a nice fit there for the Bills. They could also maybe go O-line, running back, something, but I think their offense is fine. I think that that edge rusher is the one hole in a defense that was ranked first in the league, but continues to get torched by the Chiefs.
Yeah. I think there's so many different directions Buffalo can go with this. If they want to make their offense as insane as it possibly can be, Jameson Williams, Kenneth Walker, those two options right there. If they want to make their offense just absolutely ridiculous. I like Devin Singletary, though. He really emerged the second half of this year for the first time I think we've seen in his career. He's had big games here and there, but I think this is the most consistent we've seen him. So Jameson Williams, I am a Gabe Davis fan, but after Diggs and Gabe Davis, Cole Beasley doesn't really do it for me. And Sanders is like 36. He got a 1-year prove-it deal. He proved it for like 2 weeks. So if you add Jameson Williams into that mix and he's got the torn ACL, you can add him, just make that offense insane. But I like Walker here as well. Rousseau is easily the biggest project the Bills have to deal with. And when you look at who's productive for them in their front seven, it's Tremaine Edmonds, who is just a freak of nature at middle linebacker. But then it's Jerry Hughes, who's like 30 bajillion years old. He's like 33 or something like that. He is ridiculously old. And he's getting up there. He's still extremely productive, great player. But like you said, Walker could maybe come in on long third downs, play some pass rush for him, get in there on first and second, do some run, have some run stuff there. If you really, really, really want him to, he could play a touch of outside linebacker. If you don't want Matt Milano touching your field, which probably would be a smart idea. Yeah, Trayvon Walker could just be a utility guy for McDermott to move around and Leslie Frazier to give up more 13-second drives with. So yeah, I do like Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, with the addition of that D-line, especially if Rousseau doesn't work out, because he can just take Rousseau's spot very easily.
Yeah, for sure. We mentioned him, Jameson Williams. Tennessee's really missing that third receiver, and Julio couldn't stay healthy. A.J. Brown was in and out with COVID a lot. And if y'all didn't watch that Chiefs-Bengals game, you saw how bad the passing game was, specifically for Ryan Tannehill. Now, we debated on whether there should be a quarterback here. It's up for debate, but we went with the more realistic, not so crazy pick, and a guy that kind of like a Caleb Farley coming in injured and just needing time to recover. And we'll see what happens with Farley. Same thing with Jameson Williams. I think Jameson Williams being the third receiver in this offense is scary. And I mean, you could even say 2 at some point, because if Julio keeps playing like Julio, he'll be 3 very quickly. But him and A.J. Brown, deadly combination. They just get all the SEC receivers and just go with it. And just they just need a better quarterback. So maybe this helps Tannehill out. Maybe it doesn't. Tight end could be something for the Titans. But, I mean, there's really, really other than Wademeyer, There's really not much. So I just get the most explosive offensive threat you can get for, like we said, kind of a value, because if he's healthy, he's probably going 13 or higher. And he falls to 26 to the Tennessee Titans, who can now go on another push for a 1 seed to just lose in the second round.
Yeah, the Titans, I thought really played well defensively in that game, and that was not what lost them the game. And they ran the ball pretty well in that game. Their O-line maybe has some issues. There's not really any linemen to reach for at this pick. There's not really a tight end I would reach for at this pick, and obviously you have Derrick Henry. I think the problem with quarterback here is just that, is it really worth using this pick on a Sam Howell or Carson Strong or Ritter or Willis, who could just as easily crash and burn and be just simply atrocious as easily as they could be maybe solid? I don't know. I think that Tannehill obviously lost them that game. He was atrocious in that game, but in the regular season, I think he was decent enough to maybe prove that you don't want to take one of these specific quarterbacks. Maybe if one of the other guys we drafted falls. But other than that, I just like this pick, a wide receiver. I think that Jameson Williams really is possibly up for debate as the most talented wide receiver in this class, if he doesn't tear his ACL right there. So, I don't know what they're going to do with Julio Jones this offseason, or what they're going to do with free agency with wide receivers and all that. But I just like the talent there with Williams. And maybe give Tannehill another really nice option that maybe doesn't have a leg and hamstring. Who knows about the ACL health, but I don't know. I was just looking for needs and comparing that to the talent there. And when I did that comparison, Jameson Williams still being there 27 just seems to fit the best. This seems like sort of what happened with his former Alabama player Landon Dickerson last year with the Eagles. Fell because of the ACL. They moved him to guard, and he was really solid. So maybe that happens with Williams, a wide receiver. Who knows? They got other options at wide receiver like Dotson, London, Bell, Mechie, but I don't know. I just think the talent compared to the team need just fits well in this spot.
Yeah, completely agree. They're not getting bang for their buck with Tannehill, or by drafting a quarterback here to push for Tannehill's job or whatever. And they signed Tannehill to, was it 4 years, $72 million? So something along those lines. And we're only in year one of that extension, or we're about to hit year one of that extension even. So now is not the time to already draft a guy in the first round to push for Tannehill's job. Maybe in a year or two down the road when we hit year 3 of this extension, and if he's still playing the same mediocre football that he was 2 years ago, being this year, then you draft that quarterback late in the first round, early in the second round, to make a push for Tannehill's job and actually force him to play flipping good football, because he didn't really do that this year. He was a very good last year. He was extremely efficient.
That's why he got this
that's why he got the extension. He put up insane numbers on very little work because Derrick Henry was doing all of it for him. And when Derrick Henry wasn't there, he struggled for the most part, unless he was playing Houston. And when Derrick Henry was there in the playoff game, he really struggled. So, and lost them the playoff game. So if you had another weapon there, Lord knows what's going to happen with Julio. Add Jameson Williams to the mix, pair with AJ Brown. They bring back Julio Jones, pair with Julio Jones, and you have a deadly receiver trio along with the most dominant run game in the league with Derrick Henry.
For sure. Let's get the wide receiver run going again. Jawan Dotson out of Penn State to the Buccaneers. It just, to us, it makes sense. If you're going to lose Chris Godwin, you clearly lost Antonio Brown. You don't know the future of Brady. You don't know the future of Gronk. All you know is you have Mike Evans and Scotty Miller. No shout out Scotty Miller. I love Scotty Miller. But I think Jawan Dotson just fits this offense. He, again, another easy cop-out. Kind of built like a Chris Godwin, can do a lot of what Chris Godwin does. Maybe not as good technique-wise as a route runner, but his hands are superior. He fits what they like to use as a second receiving option there in Tampa.
Yeah, the other option in Tampa would be Tyler Johnson, who, for whatever reason in the postseason, could not get on the same line of thinking as Tom Brady. They were just off the whole time. And Dotson, I think, is a nice maybe slot, maybe outside a little bit, but more of a deep threat route running, crafty kind of guy. And Evans is that big physical dominant target. And I just don't think Dotson could be much worse than Scotty Miller or Tyler Johnson on the outside. He's got good speed too. If Brady and Gronk don't stick around, maybe your line of thinking changes. I don't know what they think about Kyle Trask. They spend a second round pick on him. Maybe they give him a shot. We would have to see, but I just think that Dotson would make sense to lose. Obviously, no more Antonio Brown. If they don't bring Chris Godwin back, or franchise tag him again, it just makes sense to me. Obviously, Drake London's there. I like Drake London more in total compared to Dotson. I think it's close, but I like London more. I just think London being 6'5" is more of a Mike Evans type, and you don't just want two big physical wide receivers out there that play the exact same role, because it just makes your passing game more one-dimensional than if you have that crafty route running, speed, deep threat, all those kind of different ways to be a wide receiver than the way that Mike Evans plays the position. So I like that pick for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you guys said all the things I can say. So it sucks about going last. But yeah, if the Buccaneers, if Brady stays, I think wide receivers the spot to go still. Because they're going to be back if Brady stays. Gronk will stay. Fournette will come back. They'll rerun it, try and do it again. They don't need anyone on their front seven whatsoever. Their front seven's loaded. So they don't need anything as far as that goes. I like their safeties a lot. Edwards is decent. Whitfield is very good. I think the only spot, if they lose Carlton Davis, maybe they go Elam here, keep the Florida guy in Florida, and just take the best corner prospect on the board. Maybe you like Kendrick. Maybe you even want to reach for Kobe Bryant later in the draft. The corners are deep in this class, so maybe they wait till the second round and go corner. But yeah, go get the guy that has the size and just plays like Chris Godwin, period. And I'm with you. I like London more, but he's just Mike Evans. So you said it already. Makes it one-dimensional. That's not how you really want to play football. So Dotson is the slot receiver kind of guy that can work and get the 10 to 12 catches a game like Chris Godwin does for Tampa's offense.
So next we shift to the Packers, and clearly they haven't learned how to stop the run, because guess what? First rounded again, second rounded, I guess, first playoff game, whatever you want to call it, to the Niners again. So linebacker help instead of drafting Jordan Love would have been smart 2 years ago, but hey, these are the cards we're dealt. And Nakobe Dean is sitting there, and great fit for the Packers. They need linebacker help in the worst way. That's the one weakness of that defense, is the interior of the linebacking core, outside of the edge rushers and the Smiths. But I think Nakobe Dean would fit very well into this Green Bay defense. Who knows what Green Bay is going to be doing? They're the biggest question mark in all of this right now. So if anything could happen, but the safe pick here is just a Nakobe Dean.
Yeah, you said it. Obviously, they got some nice D linemen there with obviously Kenny Clark, and then their edge rushers with a Rashawn Gary and the Smiths and a Whitney Merciless, and in the secondary with, elite one-on-one corner Kevin King. Just kidding. Anyways, with Jair Alexander and a guy who really came on last year. Oh man,
Eric Stokes.
Eric Stokes was very good, and everyone hated that pick, but it was a great pick. Who's that other guy that they signed from the Eagles practice squad that was really good?
Oh yeah, Savage. Or no. He had the pick six. He had the game-winning ceiling pick against Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yep.
then they got these two with Savage and Amos. So I think, like you said, I think the one weakness, obviously they could lose Rodgers and they could lose Adams, and maybe they go a wide receiver here or something like that. But I like Nakobe Dean. I think this is a position they've been needing to go for a while. Dean is a little bit more raw with his IQ and his just understanding of defenses in general, but his athleticism, his blitzing ability, his run stopping, and I think in the right defense with the right coordinator could really be a really solid player. He has a lot of raw potential with his athleticism and his high motor to be tapped into.
Yeah, completely agree. And Rasul Douglas, that's what we're thinking of.
There we go.
But yeah, Nakobe Dean fills a spot that the Packers desperately need, be able to stop the run, they need some aggressiveness. And they might lose Devontae Campbell, who's a first-team All-Pro this year, kind of out of nowhere. He's a free agent. And I think Nakobe Dean can fill that role beautifully for Green Bay. I think he'd be a perfect fit in. Mesh him right with Za'Darius and Preston. The Smith brothers, right on that. They're not brothers, but it's kind of cool. And just fit him right there as the Mike linebacker. I think it's a perfect fit in that front seven, because that secondary, very underrated, and it's low-key kind of loaded because Stokes had one heck of a year and Alexander was fantastic. And you got, of course, you said like Amos and Savage up top. So yeah, Dean's perfect to fill out this front seven.
Very nice. So we talked about teams not wanting to reach for linemen. This is the one team that does have to reach for linemen. Nicholas Petit-Frere, whatever.
I think you nailed it, actually.
Oh, let's go. Offensive tackle, Ohio State. I think it's pretty easy to go. The Bengals need an offensive lineman, Ohio State kid. So you know he's going to produce well. It just makes a lot of sense. The Bengals are the one team in this draft that it goes, all right, they have to reach for an offensive lineman. This guy is the best one left, and it's as simple as that, really, because Joe Burrow has no time in the pocket.
You're damn right about that. They have no good linemen on their team. Their lineman this year was Quentin Spain, who's like 33 or something, and he's on a very small deal, and he's a guard, and he's not even good. He's like slightly below average, which is above average for the Bengals offensive line. I mean, do I need to remind people that they gave up 9 sacks?
Nine sacks.
They're starting his freshman year. Wow. His rookie year completely obliterated his knee to shreds, and they have no form of an offensive line. Jamar Chase was a great pick, but man, if they had Sewell, they would maybe have a little bit more protection. So I think you got to go for a lineman. Petit-Frere is the best pick here for those linemen. If you're not going to go guard, he's the best overall value. He was really having a solid year all the way up until Michigan, where he got ripped to shreds by Ajabo and Aiden Hutchinson. He just got embarrassed in that game. But other than that game, he had a really good year, and I thought he was going to be a higher pick than this, one of the top tackles. That game really hurt him, but he's still a solid enough pick that you can justify as the Bengals taking him here, because there really is absolutely no reason to take anything else other than a lineman with most of your picks in this draft.
Yeah, I agree. He's a perfect guy here. Like you said, he was having a fantastic year. I think that really the only other option for them is corner. Or maybe some D line, more like D tackle though, which there really isn't great value for that. Let me double check. Yeah, not great value for that. None of those guys kind of blow your mind at this value. Maybe Elam, like I said earlier, if you like one of those corners, you can take them later. But offensive tackle is the premier position for the Bengals, because you gotta protect your top 10 quarterback in Joe Burrow and literally your entire future. He's literally the franchise. So protect that guy. You should be just fine. Tackle Ohio State is very good at doing so.
For sure. We keep avoiding him. We'll just put him here right now. Drake London, the perfect 1-2 punch with a Jalen Waddle down there in Miami. Just get 2 more weapons. It's as simple as that. 6'5" with Waddle, with Gesicki, who is a free agent. So that's a little concerning. Again, it's not like you're going to take one of these tight ends. So just go get the best offensive weapon that you can get And at this spot, it is Drake London, 100%. Just get him down to Miami and get him and Tua rolling. Because if him, Tua, and Waddle get rolling, that's scary. Very scary.
Yeah, so the Dolphins don't need to go defense. They had a nice defense last year. Tua, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? Is he just maybe struggled last year when he did struggle because of the weapons around him in the O-line? Who knows? And we know that their offensive line is good at doing cartwheel touchdowns, but they're not great at blocking, which is an issue. So they do need to work on that. So I thought of stretching it out for Zion Johnson from Boston College, the guard. He would be probably my next pick if I were the Dolphins to stretch here. I think their running backs are sufficient, not great. Shout out Myles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed. Go Dogs. Anyways, you also have a tight end situation that's very bad, but like Logan said, you're not going with tight end here. And then you go wide receiver. They're losing Aaron Fuller. Devontae Parker had one good year. He's been injured, not very good recently. So you go with a guy that could replace Devontae Parker and do what Devontae Parker did the year that he was good, which is Drake London at 6'5", can go up and make contested catches. He's smooth, former basketball player. He was on the USC basketball team, so he's got that background. He's an outside guy, vertical passing offense. I think he'd be a nice big target. I think that Waddle is a nice underneath target for Tua. It's a shame that they can't use him as the deep threat that he definitely can be because of his speed. But I think that London is a nice big target for Tua to hit when he needs someone to just go up to if the coverage is good or if he just doesn't have time to throw the ball.
Yeah, London's the bailout guy here in Miami. He's your Devontae Parker, but hopefully much
Parker.
Better.
But hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully not injury prone. Hopefully has more than one good year. All the above apply to Drake London. 6'5", athletic, can go up with the best of them. 6'5" is just a matchup nightmare for any corner in this league, because most corners are around about 5'11", 6 foot. So a tall corner, a very good tall corner, is rare. That's what made Richard Sherman so good, was he was 6'3", 6'4", and just had elite ball hawking skills. So when we talk about Drake London, Waddle's the underneath guy, absolutely, and racket, turn it upfield, get yards that way through slants, drags, screens. London's your big play, go get it guy. And I agree with you. Miami just has so many holes offensively. They got to resign Gesicki, I think, this year, who will probably have 0 yards in week 1 and then go off for like 135 in the next game. And which he's very gifted receiver wise. I almost think of him more as like a white Kyle Pitts or something. I don't know. But they also need running back. Kenneth Walker could very well still be there if you're willing to spend a first round pick on him, or if you're Miami, trade up and draft Kenneth Walker, which could also be very well if you want to take them. Top 7 picks in the second round, probably somewhere around there is his draft range. But yeah, Drake London, I think, is just you gotta renew and find a deep threat somehow, because Tua can't just check down all game. That's what made that Saints game so god awful to watch. So yeah, Drake London, 30, Miami, I like it.
So at 31, another receiver, but yeah, go ahead and put it, Bailey. So John Mechie, it's not that we like Mechie more than a David Bell or a George Pickens or a Justin Ross. It's what,
The future.
We are primarily doing this on the idea that the Lions are still going to be terrible, have a very high pick, and can go get his college quarterback, Bryce Young. That is the only logic we have in this. Mechie's a great receiver, but if you can entice Bryce Young to come to your franchise in Detroit, all the better, man. All the better.
Yeah, so they're going to need to spend their free agent money on defense this year and next year because they're building up a nice offense. They got a nice center in Ragnow. Sewell's a great left tackle. They got a decent right tackle with Taylor Decker. And then obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown was a home run pick. And they got a really nice young tight end in Hawkinson. They got a really nice young running back in DeAndre Swift. And then they got Jared Goff.
The oddball, the goofball.
It is what it is. I mean, he usually has like a decent-ish game here or there. He's definitely better than like what they were with Tim Boyle and such. So that's nice. And he'll maybe get them a few wins. But yeah, I mean, you're drafting John Mechie because you want that second receiver outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're looking for Bryce Young the next year if you're bad enough, which they probably will be, but maybe better. And then if you get Bryce Young, you got that connection, him to Mechie. And also you can, with your goal of trying to be bad, to try and get Bryce Young, you can take your sweet time with bringing Mechie back from his torn ACL, and then wait till he's fully ready and then kind of unleash him later in that season. But yeah, I mean, this is a risky pick. Out of all the picks we're going to make in this first round, I would say this is probably the one that I would say is least likely to happen, just because I could see them going defense or maybe a different wide receiver like a Pickens or a Bell, or even a Justin Ross, like you mentioned. That was actually a good mention because he's not on the top of the list of a lot of draft network things and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it could be any one of those guys or a different position, but I just like that Alabama connection. We talked about the connection of schools being more important nowadays, and we obviously talked about team needs. And I just feel like you build up that entire offense. You've like got this sweet hot rod. You just need the right. You got this nice race car. You just need the right driver to operate it, and you're gonna like win all the races. I don't know. I don't watch NASCAR or any of that stuff, but it just feels like sort of what it would be like. It's a great analogy. Honestly, I should be hired as a draft and analyst, honestly, right now. So yeah, it's basically my thoughts.
If you ain't first, you're last. You know, Ricky Bobby.
Shake back. Yeah, I think this is the sketchiest out of all our picks. We're basically assuming that Bryce Young is going to be a Detroit Lion, barring the Jags don't get the number 1 pick for the 8th year in a row.
It'll be the Giants.
It might be the Giants. I mean, Bryce Young, New York, that would make Goodell happy. Yeah, I mean, kind of like you said, it's you got the racehorse, you just need the right jockey. Same kind of thing. But I think Detroit, if they do go Mechie, they take him either early second. I think he maybe even fall to late second just because the ACL. No one really wants him right now, which is kind of weird because he was balling out. He was insane in that first game against Georgia, just tore him to shreds. And then towards ACL. So I think they could go somewhere else. Alum is probably going to be a first rounder. We don't, well, barring us picking him to the Chiefs. Hill, probably also going to be a first rounder unless he does his best Xavier McKinney impression. Or maybe they pair him with a guy like Jermaine Johnson or a guy like Cameron Thomas, pair Aiden Hutchinson, with a guy like Jermaine Johnson, a guy like Cameron Thomas, and build up that D line. They also have Quara, Romeo, and Julian. Quara is there at outside backer for them, which those are more pass rush centric kind of guys for them as well. So Mechie's sketchy here.
Nice.
I didn't even mean to do that one. But they'll probably go other places. Maybe they trade down and get a couple more seconds, or maybe they take a long here. But Mechie probably is not what is going to happen, but is a future pick that could very well work out for them, especially if they land the prized possession of Bryce Young. And let's just move on. Let's get this over with.
Let's get it over with.
Safety.
He's been saying here
I've been waiting here to talk about this for a while. The Chiefs at 32.
Go ahead, big dog.
Take Jaquan Brisker, and as my thing disappears, I don't know why.
4 results.
Yeah, 4 results. There we go. They take Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State. The dude is a physical freak of nature, And the main goal out of this is to get Daniel Sorensen the hell off the field. He is so bad. He cost the Chiefs probably almost all their points this year.
I was going to say at least 2 touchdowns in that Bills game.
Yeah, he is horrific. And the reason why he even touches the field is because the Chiefs have no one else to even put there. You draft a safety who's just a physical freak of nature. He's got range. He's almost kind of like Kyle Hamilton in that scenario, just not at that level. Can help play and run support a little bit. Steal the draft probably in the first round, goes to Kansas City at 32, drafted Jaquan Brisker because safety is such a huge need for them. And he fills everything. He's athletic, can cover. And those are the 2 things they need to pair with Tyrann Mathieu back there. And he's big. He's like 6'2", 6'3". So he's literally the perfect prospect for the Chiefs to go out and win another Super Bowl.
Yeah. I don't know as much about Jaquan Brisker as you guys, or at least Bailey. I don't know how much Logan knows about Jaquan Brisker, but didn't watch a ton of Penn State. Haven't had a chance to look at the tape on Brisker yet. I do know that Sorensen is
Horrible.
Well, I'll tell you what I don't know, and that's why he's on the field ever. But so basically anyone in there would be an upgrade. And Brisker, I mean, he's a pretty talented guy, athletic, decent size. He could go out there. I mean, obviously you got Mathieu out there. You got some decent corners. L'Jarius Sneed is fine. Juan Thornhill's not great, but is there. And I think that just the athletic profile, I mean, you put him next to look better already. And by the next time we talk about this, I'll definitely know more about him. I thought about, some other guys, you got Lewis Seen from Georgia and Daxton Hill from Michigan. Seen from Georgia is not quite as talented. He was one of the weaker links of that Georgia defense in general, but he's still obviously very good. But I just didn't think he played very good in the first Alabama game, was kind of what I didn't like about him. And then Daxton Hill was kind of the big, Michigan's getting back before the Georgia game. That's really nice. He got torched by Stetson Bennett. So that is what it is. So that's if you're taking a safety here, Brisker is probably the best pick. Could take Kyrie Elam too. Be a decent pick. We basically mentioned he could be picked about 30 times in this mock draft and never picked him once. But that just shows you that he could very easily be going in this round. Hey, maybe the Lions will take him. I don't know, but we'll see. Yeah.
Woohoo. Definitely late first, early second kind of guy.
That's
Anything past about Trent McDuffie at 23, I think is Elam's range right in there. And he has the potential to get picked by any of those teams.
I think he's the perfect fit for Jacksonville with the first of the second round.
Kind of like that Byron Murphy thing.
Yeah,
where Arizona took him.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where he falls into your lap and you're like, oh, goody, because you can always use corners, especially down in Jacksonville. I mean, this is one of those guys that I wish Dallas, I know Trevor Penning was the one I was rooting for, but Dallas needs help in the secondary. Casey's leaving after this year, most likely. So I really like him to Dallas, but great fit in KC, like you guys said. Perfect 1-2 punch, the Robin to Tyrann Mathieu. It's just a match made in heaven. And again, like Bailey, I hate watching Daniel Sorensen on the field because he's just not that good. And he almost costs the Chiefs games every year, especially in the big moments. So just to solidify an already stacked unit, it's a match made in heaven. That's, like Bailey said, steal of the first round. Getting him at 32. Great pick.
Yeah, it'll be him or Wheel if the mock drive goes exactly to, which it definitely won't. Trades will happen, all that kind of crap. He'll move up, move down. But yeah, long episode. We're sorry. The next 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, they'll be much faster.
We had to break down prospects
because we've already broken down who will most likely be in the top 32 for us. So, but that's gonna do it. Thank you for checking it out. We know it's long. If you made it, congrats for sticking with us. Tell us you made it in the comments. That'd be hilarious. I want to see how many people actually watch this 2.5 hour episode.
This episode's like making it through a Giants game.
It is, but much more entertaining. And that there's good things that are going to happen in it. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in. For the Instagram at Hurdle Podcast, HRDL Podcast. For Spotify, if you want just the audio, type in Hurdle Sports to the search bar. Go down to podcasts. We're number 1 there. You want to check out Luke's podcast, whatever side he's going to be on. Mariners Deep Dive. He does it with his brother Jake. So go check him out there. All that stuff will be in the bio. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Bailey, Logan, Luke. We're out, guys. Peace.